It's a Tuesday morning and it's now time to serve you the news. My name is Pakwisi Shandoff. Government has stepped up the fight against illegal mining. The aim is to track all excavators across the country. Owners have therefore been handed a 7-day ultimatum to register their vehicles with the relevant assemblies or risk losing them. Galamsey continues to wreak havoc in the country. Over the weekend, a 26-year-old woman died in what neighbors say was the result of her toilet sinking into a pit dug under her house by illegal miners at Odumase in the Asante-Achim municipality. Lab FM's Erastus Saradanko was at the scene and now reports.
Amateur video shows final moments when an excavator dug out the remains of Gifty Manka, 26, who close friends say was pregnant. Her death tells a tragic tale of the dangerous impact of mining in residential facilities at Odumase in the Asante-Achim Central Municipality. So imagine waking up in the morning and deciding to visit the nature's call. What is supposed to be a natural activity turns out to be your death. This is what happened here today at Odumase in the Asante-Achim Central Municipality. The lady in question, a young woman who lives in this house, was attending to nature's call. The entire structure in which she was doing her business collapsed in a heap, went down into what is supposed to be a mining pit. Now, if you look around this area, there are lots of these pits within these houses at Odumase actively mining. And this is what caused the death of a lady here. Where I'm standing right now, just close to me, inside here, you could see another pit inside this house, and it goes deep down. And that is what the indigents here, this is how they do their illegal mining. The entire residential toilet sank into the deep pit beneath the building, as recounted by a resident.
Yeah, it's as a result of the Galamsey. It's not about the toilet. And we have to speak the truth. And we need to stop it. And we have to come together as a nation to stop this Galamsey madness. But we cannot allow this Galamsey to go on in our houses. You know this lady who died this morning, she's not beneficiary of the mining, but she has died this morning because of somebody being a beneficiary of that mining. This
sprawling Odumase Apeboso community is dotted with underground pits dug in homes, linking each other in what could be described as a hanging town. The practice of mining inside houses, which dates years back, is getting worse. The impact of continuous digging beneath houses could be seen in the huge cracks and the sinking earth around buildings in the town. To the ordinary eye, this is a normal residential compound house. But inside it, we found deep pits laced with wooden steps that go several meters down. We were shown a number of such houses at Odumase. Residents are angry.
Information. And I Jumano, a film, met me house to house. I moved to be, I could mention. If you Bruno was so I went and just canny. God must send one. Almost can crack a day around because met my chum fear 2030 yet to go home because he can't ask me a tissue.
Police sources say they've heard of the pits and mining in residential facilities, but cannot barge into private homes without a warrant. This you see here, this gate does not lead to any storeroom in any building. This, if you peep through, leads to an illegal mining site under this building. There is a pit in here, barricaded with wood, which goes deep down. And that's the kind of illegal mining people here do at Odumase in the Asante Achim Central District. Many of these houses here have pits similar to this one in there. So when people go into their houses, they are not going to sleep, they are going in there to mine illegally. And all these houses are at risk of collapse. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Odumase, Asante Achim Central Municipality.
Rather very interesting developments there. Now, consumers and vendors of prepared food and food items are reeling under the pressure of the meteoric rise in prices, which is forcing them to cut down on the number of meals consumed in a day. Some traders who also spoke to JoyNews said it is becoming impossible for them to sell their products as the taxes on these items keep increasing with a corresponding increment in the rate of the local currency. Currently, you would need over 15 Ghana cedis to buy $1, and there is no end in sight to salvage the distressed economy. My colleague Hannah Odame has been interacting with some food vendors and consumers in the following report.
These gentlemen, who had just finished consuming their breakfast of banku and soup when the news team got to the chop bar, stated how they have been very tactful with the amount they spend on food daily.
Currently, if I chop in the morning, I don't chop again. I'll wait till the evening around 6, 7, and I just eat something small. Because the way things are going, if you say you'll be eating in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, hey, you can't even pay your rent. So currently, if I eat in the morning, I don't take in anything. So in the evening, when I close and I get home, I just get it something small, then I just take it.
For Ma Chocho, who sells assorted cooked foods, the low patronage to her eatery, which she attributes to the extra cost of her food prices, says she can't do much about it.
First, none toso adaka them says 600, that's any 500. Baby, I'm saying toso no. To me, adaka no quite 12,002. To me, talk. It's Yama say no customers no eswati. If say omu needs cut say first now, be a bedroom of Babeteju and that diano.
Auntie Chocho is saying that she was in the market on Saturday, and a box of tomato which she used to buy for 600 cedis is now being sold at 1,200. But the downside of all of this is that Auntie Chocho says this is also affecting the frequency at which her customers used to come to her shop. Her concern is reiterated by Auntie Jane, the bread seller, and Abdul, the tea seller.
Just last month was sold, it was 6 cedi, the Prema. Now it's 13 cedis. Why? Why?
As the news team left the market, these traders said they still had concerns to voice out. For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odame.
Now, Member of Parliament for Domikwa Sarah Adwoa Safo will know her fate this week. That is today, actually, when Parliament resumes from its 3 months recess. The NP had been absent for more than the constitutionally allowable days, with the Privileges Committee of the House recommending that she be allowed to lose her seat. Speaker of Parliament Alban Kingsford Sumana Bagbin will make the effective decision on the matter when the House reconvenes. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has been taking a look ahead of the big issues that Parliament will be contemplating when sittings resume today.
Went on break in July, a divided House on whether or not MP for Dom Kwabenya Sarah Adwoa Safo to keep her seat.
Mr. Speaker, the committees of this House has the authority to determine the urgency of a bill. Once they make a determination, it binds all of us. Plenary has no business in this. People should understand that. So this is not the first time a committee is authorized to make a declaration for on behalf of the House.
And the Parliament of Ghana is not the Speaker of Parliament. And that the Parliament and Parliament of Ghana is not the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. And that Parliament is not the majority leader, nor is it the minority leader. That the Parliament of Ghana is the well-constituted 275 members of Parliament elected thereon to exercise the legislative authority of Ghana on their behalf. On their behalf. And therefore, Mr. Speaker,
so a report has to come to this House And the committee has to demonstrate to this House that the person was given the opportunity to exercise reasonable explanation, and the person did not provide reasonable explanation.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin deferred the decision to October when the House resumes.
I have consulted the old lady. The old lady has given me an advice, and I think that advice is correct, because the issue raised by the majority leader is both of substantive and procedural law, and I need time to submit to this House a reasoned, written ruling. I cannot, in the heat of today, give you the ruling.
Well, the time is due now, and with MPs returning from their constituencies on Tuesday, the Speaker's ruling is the most anticipated on the business agenda of the House.
So this has been a long-drawn battle. The lines are drawn now. The majority side are going all out to argue that Sarah Adwoa Safo should lose her seat, whilst the minority, surprisingly, are rather supporting the Member of Parliament, saying, if anything at all, that debate must come to the floor and the 275 members of Parliament should take that decision. It is expected to drag on for a while. When Parliament resumes in October, members will be expected to go back to this vexed question and take a decision that will potentially leave some precedent for the future. This Sarah Adwoa Safo saga is not going away.
Parliament will also deal with a number of key issues at this meeting, including considering the 2023 budget and economic plan of government in the times of economic difficulties and hardship, as well as a number of bills. For JoyNews, Kweku Asante.
Let's still stay in Parliament, where the Minority Caucus has waded into the controversy surrounding the appointment of Dr. Eric Nkansa as the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Only last week, the major teacher unions in the country kicked it against the said appointment and asked President Akufo-Addo to revoke the appointment. The Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee, Dr. Clement Apak, said the teacher unions are right in opposing the said appointment. He was speaking at the launch of JKD Network in Accra. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has the rest of the story again.
Dr. Clement Apak was speaking at the launch of JKD Language Network, a group of university graduates seeking to make learning Chinese and French popular in Ghana. Dr. Apak said the concerns of the teacher unions are valid.
Because the argument has been made by the teacher unions, rightly so, that up until his appointment, he had only taught briefly, not even a full-time capacity, but that by training, he's a banker. And that he had been deployed to the minister's office in 2021 as one of his senior aides. So clearly the teacher unions had a problem where you take away a man who, quote unquote, rose through the ranks, is a professional, is an academic, has taught in the classroom before, and had actually earned his due. And you replace him with somebody who has also earned his due, but in a different area of expertise. And so that is why the teacher unions are opposed to this appointment, not because it is Dr. Eric Nkansa, but it is because of the background that he's bringing to the table and how they feel that they also want one of their own who has risen through the ranks, somebody who understands what it means, the challenges that you face.
He claimed that the former GES Director General, Professor Opukwa Mankwa, was sacked because of his frosty relationship with the Education Minister.
I was a bit taken aback because anyone who has followed the educational sector and the issues thereof would find it very difficult to admit that Professor Opukwa Mankwa's set of skills, talent was no longer needed, and that the exigencies that, quote unquote, warranted his appointment no longer existed. That cannot be the case. I have said, and it's on record, that the only real reason is because of the frosty relationship between Professor Pukwa Mankwa and the Honorable Yao Educhum as a Minister and Director General.
He, however, says his side is willing to give Dr. Eric Nkansa the benefit of the doubt to prove critics wrong. Meanwhile, the Busa South MP launched the JKD network to facilitate the learning of French and Chinese. General Secretary of JKD Language Network, Hilda Keja Ajiman, outlined the vision of the organization.
Our vision is that in few years to come, we can enter a company or any working place that we get a personnel who can render services using English and French and Chinese. On this note, I'll say, let's brace ourselves as we go on this journey to make Ghana speak French and Chinese. It will be a great joy to go on that journey with all Ghanaians.
He urged all Ghanaians to take the learning of French and Chinese language seriously.
This brings us to the undeniable fact that we Ghanaians and citizens of Ghana need to take the learning of especially these two languages very serious. This is where JKD Language Network we come in. JKD Language Network is a group of young and vibrant Ghanaian graduates from the various Ghanaian tertiary institutions with a passion of teaching French and Chinese to all and sundry. We are on a mission to make our compatriots see the importance of having French and Chinese, the numerous opportunities that they will get, and the value they add to themselves for the job market.
For JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Accra.
Now, the lack of a dining hall facility to accommodate the thousands of students of the Great Wa Senior High School is affecting teaching and learning at the institution. The school's assembly hall was constructed for 200 students, for example, but has now been outnumbered by the students, forcing them to hold assembly sessions in the extremely heat conditions under the scorching Hamilton sun. JoyNews' Upper West regional correspondent Rafik Salam has the rest of the details.
It's 7 a.m. on Monday. Maze of students of Grade 1 Senior High School crammed at the forecourt of the school's administration for the morning's assembly. Though early, but the hot Hamilton sun is already scorching and the students are bearing the brands. However, the forecourt is better conducive venue for the morning's assembly than the school's assembly hall. The school's assembly hall was constructed over 40 years ago to accommodate 200 students, but now been outnumbered by the students. The school's population is over 1,500, more than 7 times its required capacity. Headmaster Adam Idrisu Tedman expressed worry about the situation.
We would have been doing or having this ceremony in an auditorium, but you have seen us in front of the school administration block. We are in dire need of an auditorium, popularly called Assembly Hall. At least what you used 30-something years ago is now too small for our current population. Before the WASSCE ended, that is the West African Senior School Certificate Examination, we were about 2,000, and that couldn't have entered the Assembly Hall. Even our current population of about 1,500, the Assembly Hall is too small for us.
The student population has also outnumbered the capacity of the school's dining hall. As a result, most students no longer take the meals at the dining hall, but at their dormitories. Adam Idrisu Tedman noted that if the school is provided with an auditorium, it will give the opportunity to convert the assembly into a second dining hall.
If we get an auditorium, we can conveniently convert the current assembly hall to a second dining hall so that we divide the students into 2 to use both halls. We have the land. Behind the common market, there is a vast land. Just in front of the headmaster's bungalow, there is a mini forest, which at least we have a space. Wherever you can contact to get us this multi-purpose assembly hall, 1989 year group, please be the pioneers. Try your best. We have spoken to others. and I know they are doing their best.
The Great Wa Senior High School headmaster made a statement when the 1989 year group presented sports equipment to the school.
Development communication practitioner Ibrahim Seydou Bamanjo, on behalf of his colleagues, presented discus, shot puts, and javelin valued at 6,000 Ghana cedis.
We, the 1989 year group, when we're here, these were areas that the school was excelling at the national sporting competition. When we go to the regionals, the school could do well in javelin, do well in shot put, and those less endowed areas. And so these areas have been able to propel the name of the school to a greater height. And we think that with this current system, if you're able to put more effort, more resources, more equipment in this regard, I'm sure something useful will come out of it. The important thing is that, look, to project the school, to make it what it is. In the past, WASEC was a household name in Ghana when it came to sporting activity. But today, I hardly, myself as an old student, hear anything concerning the school. So I think that when we are able to look around, especially these less endowed areas, and then develop it, something useful will come out of it.
Okay. Authorities and the students of the school are happy with the donation, stating that it will aid them to compete and win more laurels for the school.
Now, the Ghana Armed Forces say the gender mainstreaming activities at the garrisons targets both genders and offer them equal opportunities in the forces to ensure gender equity, according to Naval Captain Veronica Ahin, gender advisor to the Chief of Defence Staff. The aim is also to empower both genders to enhance development. Per the LC initiative, she made these remarks at a week's gender awareness program with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center and the Global Affairs Canada at the Liberation Barracks in Sunyani. Precious Samuel has the rest of the details.
The Ghana Armed Forces currently have a female population of about 18%. And to offer equal opportunities to all personnel, a project has been rolled out to address barriers to women in the forces and peacekeeping operations. It forms part of recommendations of the 2020 Measuring Opportunities for Women in Peace Operations report, the 18-month project for all the garrisons being implemented by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center with funding support from Global Affairs Canada took off at the Liberation Barracks in Sunyani. Gender advisor to the Chief of Defence Staff, Naval Captain Veronica Ahin, says the Ghana Armed Forces Gender Mainstreaming Project provides equal access and opportunities to both genders.
So we are here to sensitize them on gender mainstreaming first, and also to bring them a feedback on the report of the LC initiative. The armed forces, right from the Chief of the Defence Staff, our gender mainstreaming is targeting both men and women. And so even though we would undertake programs to support the women because they are now at the bottom, which is gender equity, at the end of the day, everybody in the armed forces is going to benefit. Such that if you are offering training, you give equal training to the men and equal training to the women. So those women who have not been trained, for instance, will be given a little more training to come up a par with their male colleagues. So at the end of the day, gender mainstreaming is meant to empower the men and the women. In fact, the theme upon which we are doing all this training is guaranteeing equal opportunities in the Ghana Armed Forces.
Lieutenant Colonel Kofi Adwoa, commander of 154 Armored Regiments, welcomes the initiative.
Over the past few years, we have had quite a significant increase in the number of females in our units, and that's quite a new development. So it's important that we don't just admit them, but we have laid down arrangements by way of a policy that should help us to effectively administer them and also employ them in the work that they are supposed to do. So this is a very good initiative.
Acting head of the Women, Peace and Security Initiative, KAIPTC, Agnes Agbevadi, says the center is committed to promoting women and security agenda.
The center came out with a strategic objective, very unique to promoting women, peace and security agenda. The outcome of the assessment is translated into action, policy, intervention that we need to carry out to address the barrier that was identified. There are a number of activities to be done. Some of the action had to do with policy development, that's the gender policy for the Ghana Armed Forces. I think once we have the policy for Ghana Armed Forces, then every other thing will be put in structure. The policy will be followed to ensure that there's equal opportunity for both the male and the female officers in the Ghana Armed Forces.
Precious Samuel, Joy News, Sunyani.
Yes, by part company with you. My name is Pakwisi Shandoff. For more, log on to www.joyonline.com. The show continues. Stay.
Welcome back. This is still the AM show. Time for us to go into the papers to know exactly what they are reporting. But hello, Ghana. Happy moment is here. Let's storm Qatar this November for the World Cup. 2022 will storm energy drink, Puma soft drinks, and Awake drinking water from Casaprecon Company Limited. Simply buy your favorite Storm energy drink, Puma soft drinks, and Awake drinking water. Test the 4-digit unique number on the neck of the bottle to short code *780# option 2 and follow the prompt on all networks for free. Be one of the lucky winners to this year's World Cup in the monthly draw. You can also win TVs, fridges, microwave ovens, mobile phones, home theaters, free drinks, and more instantly. Don't waste time. Grab a bottle of Storm energy drink, Puma soft drinks, and Awake drinking water, and let's storm Qatar this World Cup. This promotion is on the NLA Caritas platform. This advert is also FDA approved. Remember that terms and conditions apply. Well, so on the news review today, we're having an energy analyst, Kojo Poko, joining us as our guest today. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Oh, my brother, good morning. How are you?
I am well. Second time we're meeting on this network.
Yes, I think we should be meeting very more often.
Well, let's see how it goes. Well, today I have with me the Daily Graphic. We have the Daily Guide, the Finder newspaper, the New Crusading Guide, the Graphic Business, the Economy Times, and let's see what they are reporting. Let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. It says, we will stabilize foreign exchange market. That according to Opon Kruma. Public schools need utmost attention, according to National Best Teacher. Register excavators with MMDAs by November 2. Abuja port to owners. And no bail for Aisha Huang, according to judge. Now, on the stabilizing the foreign exchange market, in an effort to halt speculation and stabilize the foreign exchange market, the Bank of Ghana will hold a series of discussions with the leadership of universal banks and forest bureau operators starting today. The Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, who made this known at a press briefing in Accra yesterday, said it was envisaged that the crucial meeting would ultimately ensure that measures were put in place to streamline, sanitize, and provide clarity on the supply chain of the foreign exchange market. That, he noted, would ensure that traders who needed foreign currencies for legitimate transactions would have access to them at official rate. This is something that people have been calling for, that look, if we allow the market to dictate it without government intervention, this will continue to really weaken the city. Now, government says we are going to ensure that what you want us to do will be done. What do you make of this particular action by government that would ensure that we make the forex available to people to do legitimate transactions and not just make it available for anybody at all?
Well, good morning again, and good morning to all the KNP fans who are watching across the country. My brother, look, there is one thing that some of us have been saying, and I don't think the government is listening. There is no confidence in our economy. As we speak, no investor has confidence in the Ghana economy, and it is due to a couple of factors. We have been on this thing since February. And since February, everybody is been kid laughing and kid playing around this thing, thinking that it will go away. I have said over and over that problems in economics, problems in a country don't just go away. You need to take decisive actions. You remember when the finance minister came and made the announcement of 30% reduction in CEO salaries and certain measures, making it look like those were some austerities, which for me did not even scratch the surface of what the government needs to do. So all these meetings are good. Seeing government hold a series of meetings is good. But the fundamental problem is that the market, the investors, the people who will help you bounce back your economy and give confidence to the city, do not trust anything coming out of the government circles. So you remember Upon Krumah came and said that, look, 750 million is coming. If I were you, I'll go and sell my dollar. That was around 10. After all that, we are now at 15.42 as at yesterday. I was too scared to check as at last night, so I didn't check. But we are hoping that government can do something to bring a stop to this free fall. Because now, as far as the dollar and the cedi is concerned, the wheels is off and the brakes, there are no brakes. So you watch what happened last week. The cedi lost 1 cedi value every day. I spoke to your brother last week, Monday, Bernard, and I told him that if we are not careful, we'll get to 15 by December. We're at 15 by Friday. So this thing about government and also trying to say that speculation, I want us to take that word out of our conversation because there's no speculation. If you are saying that in the government, in the interbank trade is 12.45, that alone in itself is a problem. Because if interbank is 12.45 and the forex is 15, where is the speculation? You understand? It's different if you are telling me that interbank is 9 or 8 and forex is 15. Then clearly there's a problem. But every time we realize that the banks are always cheaper than the forex. So if interbank is 12.4 and forex is 15, clearly there's no speculation.
But it's 3 cities difference, not too much if you're comparing the interbank with the forex.
Okay, so now let me ask you, if the forex is 12.45 at the bank and the forex and the black market is 15, will anybody go and buy from the forex people if the banks have the dollar? That's the question you should ask yourself. If the bank is selling forex at 12.45, every big business needing forex, banks, they have a bank. But you'll be surprised that it's the bankers themselves that are calling the black market people looking for dollar for their clients because the banks don't have the dollar. So you tell me that it's speculation that is creating this panic. It's speculation that is bringing the price up. But there can't be a price if nobody is buying. It wouldn't be a price. So if the bank is 12.45, then the Makola or the black market people would definitely bring their price down if nobody is buying because it's demand and supply that is inching up the price. But if they are at 12.45 and nobody is buying at 12.45, but the 15 point something keeps going up, it tells you that the 15 point something is what everybody is buying because that's where the demand is. And the more the demand outstrips the supply, simple economics, the prices keep going up. If nobody is going to the Zamrama man, his price will not go up. So we should stop using that word speculation. It's not speculation. The only problem now is that there's a run on our city. That's the right word. People are rushing to buy the city within panic, and rightfully so. He doesn't know what value the city is going to be tomorrow. We don't know what the bottom is. So that is the hard truth. Government holding a series of meetings is important. But for me, what government needs to do is to create confidence in this economy. There is no confidence in the economy. So the investors are no longer bringing their money to invest in Ghana as we speak.
Okay. But on the point of the forex having dollar or dollars than the banks, and that's why demand is really shifted in their position. How is that possible that they do have the dollars and the banks don't have it? Is there a missing link or there's something we're missing?
That's not a question for me to answer. I don't know how the Zamrama man gets his dollar, but the Zamrama man has always had dollars. Look, I ran a forest bureau in Makola opposite the Rollins Park, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. That was most times where you find me during those days when I have finished work, I go to Makola Jintex Forest Bureau. I have known that the Zamrama man in Tudu and in Makola has always had forex. How they get their forex, I don't know. But they've always had forex.
Okay. I was asking so because, I mean, per the laws, people can only have access to the dollar through the universal banks, isn't it? Are there any other route people can have access?
Not necessarily. You see, look, the thing is that there are a lot of things that goes on in this country that me and you can't talk about it on TV. Okay, so let's leave that one aside. Okay. The point is, people manage to find ways of getting dollar into the country, and because the black market offer more rate than the bank, they will sell it to the black market. People even take their dollar from the banks and sell it to the black market because they offer them much more rates. So even in these times that we are having problems, if people have dollar to change, they would rather go and change it with the black market than change it with the banks. So the Zamrama man or the black market always have dollars. How they get it, my brother, there's quite a number of ways that I don't think me and you can discuss on TV.
Okay. Interesting. We have been joined on this discussion by one of the role models in this journalism industry. We call him Uncle because really he deserves it. Uncle Ben Efsen is also with us. Uncle Ben, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Viewers.
And we are talking about government's plans to stabilize the foreign exchange market. The Minister of Information has given us plans that the cabinet will be meeting, and again, the ministry will be meeting with some stakeholders to discuss how to stabilize the city. One thing that he told us was that they would ensure that traders who needed foreign currencies for legitimate transactions would have access to them at official rate. Now, in our discussion with Kojo Pokutu, we realized that always the forex bureaus do have dollars more than the banks. What do you think about this move by government to help stabilize the dwindling city?
Thank you. I think that first is an attempt to calm the nerves of the financial markets. Two, I have a friend who runs a forest bureau, and about 3 weeks ago, I just told him something, and about a week later, he said, Ben, what you told me is, I think, happening. You know, what is happening is that if today, for example, the average rate is about 16 cities to the dollar, and tomorrow your program, well watched, is that's a story that the dollar is now 18. Believe me, from this morning, anybody who has the dollar will not sell it below 80. I think that, yes, the city is depreciating, Christmas is coming, there is more demand, and the rate at which it is falling, people are deciding that it's a quick way to make some buck. But the speed, I think, is further pushed by figures that come out. So let's see how it goes. Obviously, there is so much pressure on the dollar, and the government's move is an attempt to calm the nerves. Perhaps if the IMF meetings ending by end of the year, the IMF having something to do with the release of funds, but I suspect that maybe by the time that end of the year comes and the IMF thing comes on, perhaps the dollar may have reached 22 or 23. It's very possible.
All right. Now, let's do the daily guide now. And it says, Agrada gets additional 150,000 cedis bail. Says grabbed over NDC violent pose. Galamsey Queen, interpreter missing, trial adjourned. It comes with a picture of Aisha Huang. Council of State meets president, and that's over the economic challenges. Nana opens Abomosu Bridge. Now, let's tackle the one on the Galamsey Queen. The absence of a Chinese interpreter yesterday caused an Accra High Court to adjourn the trial of N1, also known as Aisha Huang, a Chinese national arraigned for illegal mining, illegal re-entry into Ghana, and other offenses. Justice Lydia Osei Mafo. The presiding judge yesterday indicated that she had been informed that the interpreter had traveled and an arrangement was made for another one to be provided. But unfortunately, the said replacement was absent when the case was called. She therefore ordered the registrar of the court to ensure that a Chinese interpreter is provided to the court at the next sitting and subsequent ones before the case is called. Let me start with you, Kojo Poku. On this one, what do you make of how we are handling the Aisha Huang case? People say it looks like it's a deliberate attempt to make sure the case travels for a longer time. What do you make of it?
Who needs the interpreter? Which of those people on trial needs interpreter? I'm confused.
No, just so she can understand what's happening, isn't it?
She speaks very good English. She speaks very good English. She writes very good English. Please, why does she need an interpreter? Why does she need an interpreter? When she went to get a Ghana card in the northern region, did she have an interpreter?
We don't know of that.
I'm telling you, she did not. So please, let's move these things along, my brother. We live in a country where maybe the court process says that, look, maybe the court says there should be one. Because I have been to court where it's a magistrate court, I speak good English, but they still translated it in Chi. So maybe it is a process of the court where...
Exactly. So I was going to say that is a procedure, the language you choose to use.
Yes, maybe, but the woman does not need an interpreter. But the point is, some of these things, when it happens in our courts, then we all understand why cases can go to 4 or 5 years. All because of an interpreter, a case is adjourned. Meanwhile, you could just postpone the case for another 2 hours or 1 hour, and you can drive one in from the... Chinese interpreters in this country are abound. A lot of our kids, our brothers, our sisters have been to China to school, and if you want a Chinese interpreter, in less than an hour, you get one. I didn't see why there should be whole adjournment. Maybe the adjournment to another day. But what day? You realize that by the time you go in, this lawyer will say, oh, my lord, can I take a date? I have to go to Takrady for a case. This lawyer will come in and say, my lord, okay, it's okay, no problem. Just adjournment alone in our judiciary system can let a case travel 1 year. Just adjournment alone. Oh, the lawyer in this is not well. He's gotten a funeral. He couldn't come back. That is how our judiciary system sometimes work. And it's a pity. For me, we should be more serious and on the case than we have been. And that is why in my submission sometimes I say that, look, we should have a process, we should reform the judiciary system so that no criminal case should travel more than 2 years. Okay, so that everything is done within the space of time. If you have to adjourn, you can adjourn for a couple of hours and get one in. It doesn't take more than an hour to find an interpreter, a Chinese interpreter.
Okay.
So, but the lady speaks good English. She doesn't need an interpreter. So maybe it's the court process that needs it, but the lady doesn't need it.
Let me bring you in, Uncle Ben, here. From the way the case is going, the court is really has re-emphasized that they still want to keep with the police until this case is really determined, because they've denied the lawyer all the applications for her to be granted bail. How does this tell of Ghana's effort to deal with illegal mining?
What's happened to Aisha Huang should be what should happen to the other Ghanaian financiers of Galamsey. You know, I mean, recently, in one of the forests, they arrested 3 Chinese and 2 Ghanaians. But 6 or 7 excavators managed to vanish. Excavators are not sports cars, Benz cars. So if you're able to arrest those operating these machinery, these machines, how can the excavators suddenly vanish? I think that Santini made a very valid point when he said that we must be tougher on those who finance the Galamsey activities. I think that the court is very reluctant to give bail, not because I think the court is being discriminatory, but I think that given the circumstances of how, you know, her case ended, I suspect that the court wants to deal with it, and we should give them the benefit of the doubt. But I believe that those who are set on operations these anti-galamsey operations, I believe that they must be changed quickly. I mean, at least you spend 2-3 weeks, maximum 1 month, then another batch goes in. Because I think that when they are more comfortable, they are in their comfort zone, they stay 3-4 months. How can an excavator vanish and the human beings, we can get them? So I think that if we get the source, that is the financiers, we'll take a giant step. But Aisha Huang, I'm sure the court wants to really deal with it quickly.
All right, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, if you go into the finder, there's a story that I would want to relate to this one. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Kojo Brace, says all excavators need to be registered by November 2, and if you fail to do that, your machine will be confiscated. So Uncle Ben, you just said that we should also try and ensure that we are applying the same stringent measures we are applying to Aisha Huang case to the Ghanaian financiers. This step by the ministry that let's get all excavators registered by November 2. How will this also help in the fight against illegal mining?
Well, if you register your excavator, I'm sure there are details, engine number, and so on. That will be a good way of tracking. First, if by November 2nd, the registration date closes, any excavator not registered must be seized. And I think that the ministry must have juicy reward for those who will report the presence of unregistered excavator, because I believe that when you register, they must be able to give you a sticker so that anybody who sees an excavator in operation or an excavator parked somewhere will know that this is a registered one. If they don't, then reports will be made. They can make a report to the media, take a video or a shot of where it is, and it must be seized. I think that it's a step in the right direction. And once juicy rewards are made, there are many unemployed young men in these areas who make it a duty of going around and exposing unregistered excavators hidden somewhere. Because once you register and it is found, the people may run away. It will be easier to track you, the owner. So I think that's a good step in the right direction.
Okay. Kojo, how does this inspire you in terms of our effort to really deal with illegal mining?
Not much. I have said that yes, like my big brother, Mr. Epson said, roping in charges on the financiers. I have said that is a very big step to stop galamsey. We need to start roping in. When the galamsey people are arrested, the person in the pit, the person operating the machine, the guy in East Legon who is financing that operation should get the same charge and be arraigned in court as the guy who is operating the machine and in the pit. If we start doing that, the financiers will stop financing galamsey, because you now start seeing some really posh men in Accra in court for galamsey. Okay, and all that, half of the galamsey issues in Ghana will stop. The other thing about the registration on its own is not enough. Tracking. I have said that we should put trackers. Somebody should find money to get these tracking companies to track these excavators. Where they put these excavators, there is no human traffic. I have been to the Prestia area and the Ankobra area where some places are not accessible. The times when we are, because I am doing some small hydro projects, and the place we want to go, we have to beg the galamsey people to give us their boats to transport us on the Ankobra to where we want to go, because it's not accessible. So they are the only ones who can access these areas, and they access it through various ways in the bush and get there. But they give us their boat and they transport us on the Ankobra to the point where we come off. And you see them doing galamsey there. So where they can put the excavator is not a place that naturally there's traffic for someone to go and see. But if there's a tracker, and it's in the river, it's on the river, or it's in the forest reserve, you can see the trucking company can pinpoint it to you that, look, this excavator is not supposed to be where it's supposed to be. So registration is good, but trackers on them to track them real time is very important.
Okay. At this point, I need to note that the Minerals Commission has a project like that they have even started piloting it. They are tracking some devices, and they have given zones that if your machine moves from this concession out of the buffer zone, it immediately stops. Someone operating a machine in Accra will stop it, not even in your area. So that's also in the pipeline that the Minerals Commission is doing. So the tracking bit is also being implemented.
My brother, what are we piloting? We all know how trackers work. What are we piloting? Put a tracker on an excavator. What is there to track? What is there to pilot? What is there to pilot?
According to them, they wanted to test how the system will work.
Most companies have trackers on their car. What are we piloting? I mean, some of these things in the pipeline. Meanwhile, our water body is spoiling. What are we? What is this, my brother? Pilot. What are we piloting?
Okay.
It's an action. Take it or not take it. What are we piloting?
Interesting. So on the same Finder newspaper, the front page, Occupy Ghana says, Akunta mining case, key test to end Galamsey. I'm sure Kojo Poku, you agree with them.
That what?
That Akunta mining case is key test to ending Galamsey. That's what Occupy Ghana is saying.
Every case is key test in mining. I don't know why people make a big fuss about Akunta mining because our brother Wum to me is involved. Look, everybody, I don't see why we tend to segregate this matter. Guilty is guilty. I mean, Akunta mining plus all the other mining companies is key test in ending Galamsey, not just Akunta mining. Why are we just making sure that if you solve one person's case, everything goes away? What if Wum to me stop mining, all the other mining companies will stop? And that's not the case.
Okay. All right. The new crusading guy says community sensitization against illegal mining is key. Mrekuduka charges. Baumia, government petition to audit all foreign firms. Now help create 80,000 jobs, 1,000 hectares of degraded land to be reclaimed. That's the National Alternative Employment Livelihood Program that the government instituted. I'll fix the economy, Akufo-Addo declares. Business, graphic businesses, no need for new taxes. Individual businesses too fatigued to pay more. Uncle Ben, let me start with you on the graphic business. With the coming in of the IMF deal, economic experts have been talking about this and warning government that there's no need for us to introduce new taxes because, look, people are tired in paying new taxes. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that there is no free lunch. You know, when the IMF comes in, they will come in with certain benchmarks and they will be monitoring. So once we are going in for the IMF, clearly many of us expect that there will definitely be, it won't be as business as usual. There will be a cap on expenditures. There will be a cap on what the government needs to do. The important point is that I think the first step is when the IMF comes in, there will be stability in the dollar exchange rate. You know, we hear stories, and I've seen videos, friends have recorded videos of the two of us go to a place, we negotiate to maybe buy a gallon of oil, and I pay and deposit as I come back for it, and you say that, oh, you come back in 20 minutes. By the time you come back in 20 minutes, you have to pay more because the price has changed. I'm not a businessman, but if for those of us in the newspaper business, we feel it in the newsprint prices. So if a trader, Christmas is coming, a trader, let's say in June, imported some containers of a commodity with the dollar at maybe 8 cedis, 9 cedis to the dollar. And now that next consignment is going to be about 15 or 16 cedis to the dollar. He or she will have to increase the price of the goods now, so that when the import comes in, he's able to cover up. Once there is that stability in the exchange rate, I believe that it will not go down drastically.
Okay.
But there will be some leveling in terms of pricing, and this will ease pressure on the economy and the average Ghanaian.
Okay. Kojo, I'm sure definitely do you agree with these three experts who say that, look, we don't need any more taxes, but Uncle Ben also says there's no free lunch anywhere. How do we draw the line between the two?
Well, I think the revenue side, we need improvement in efficiency in revenue collection. I don't think increasing revenue is the solution now. What the problem is the expenditure side. If you remember far back in January or December last year, I said on some platforms that when the minister went on the floor of the parliament and said that his expenditure for the year was 150 million, and everybody clapped and didn't question it, I was surprised. Then later, the finance minister came back and said he's done a review downwards of about 20% to 130 million. Again, I said that how are you going to spend 130 million when your total revenue is 70 billion at best? You cannot come in and do a budget said, I'm going to spend 150 billion. And that is where our problem started. Okay. You realize that the Fitch and those rating companies started downgrading us from there because they realized that the government did not have any plans to fix the physical space. Your total revenue can be 70 billion and you're looking to spend 150 billion. Where from that money? Then you came and reduced it further to 130 billion. Okay, knowing very well you don't have that money to spend. And your whole idea is to borrow, 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 borrow. So what IMF is coming to do is to reduce that expenditure. Bring you within a physical space of, let's say, 10%, 15% above your revenue. So around 90 billion is where we should be in terms of expenditure. So that is going to be raked down. Then they will help you to bring in efficiency in your revenue collection. I honestly don't think that Ghanaians can take any more tax increases. I've said that we are squeezing water out of a rock. Okay,
I'm grateful to you, but I'll give 30 seconds each for you to share your thought on these because on the Daily New Crusading Guide says NIALP, today is the 1 year after NIALP was created or launched. It has created 80,000 jobs and we are told 1,000 hectares of degraded land to be reclaimed. 30 seconds each for you. Let me start with you, Kojo Poko.
I will use my 30 seconds to say hi to my big brother, Benefsen. On all his pollings that he's done, he's never mentioned Kojo Poko as presidential aspirant in there. He mentioned other people's name, and Uncle Ben, I'm very upset when I see that. I'm very hurt when I see that. So I'm hoping that going forward, when you do your polling, you will find out if Kojo Poko has any chance as MVP flag bearer.
Okay. Uncle Benefsen, let me give you 30 seconds.
Oh, Kojo, I've taken notes, but I think that the pudding will be how you'll be able to get some of your people elected. So I'll put your name up and we'll see maybe by mid next year when perhaps the flag bearership elections are held. I wish you the best of luck in advance.
All right.
Thank you. I was hoping you do something before Christmas, so my name will be out there.
Yes, boss. I hear you.
Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm grateful that you found time to join us. Kojo Poko is an energy expert, and Uncle Benefsen is a journalist. You know, he is the editor for I think the Dispatch newspaper there. But well, that does it for the news review here. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you sports on the AM show. Stay with us.
Good morning, AM Sports here with me, Muftar Nabila Abda. Later today, the Ghana Football Association will be back to court for an injunction request that was made by Ashanti Gold following the decision of the football governing body to demote the club to Division 2. Ashanti Gold felt the Ghana Football Association has been unfair to them with their decision to demote them to Division 2 and also fined their president as well as the chief executive officer of the club. The Ghana Football Association proceeded to ask FIFA to cancel the transfer deal of his former player Yawa Ano to a club which is Pyramid in Egypt. Well, the club is fighting the GFA, calling on the court to ask the GFA to reinstate the club to participate in the Premier League because they feel the GFA used them as a scapegoat as they could not establish any evidence against the club in their investigations in alleged match fixing between Ashanti Gold and Inter Allies. The court is expected to provide a decision later today. Hearing begins at 12 p.m. In a separate development, but quite similar to that, the contempt case also against the Executive Committee of the Ghana Football Association for their decision to commence the Premier League would also be heard today in the same court. Moving on, let's hear from a former Vice President of the Ghana Football Association, Fred Papo, who's been speaking to me, especially on Prime Take, talking about why Great Olympics decided to drag the Ghana Football Association to civic cause. According to him, he said that the football governed by the system was stuck against Great Olympics, and he eulogized the normalization committee for reinstating the club to compete in the Ghana Premier League.
You should look at those cases on their merit and on individual. The last one which people usually, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about. People always make reference that Olympics to the GFA to court and then they were reinstated with King Faisal. No, people should appraise themselves on the fact. There was a case that Olympics felt the GFA, the only times the GFA had lost a case in court was when they did not use their own rules and regulations. Those were the only times the GFA lost cases in court. Yes. And in this particular case, Olympics felt the GFA was not applying its own rules and regulations to the letter. So we took the case to court because we had no option. The league was about to start without us. In the court, the judge realized the wisdom in what we were saying, but he didn't want to encourage litigation. So he advised the FA to go back and sit down with Olympics to settle the issue. At that time, they wanted to go to Congress. Will you believe that when the judge advised that we went home to settle the case, it was around 10, 11 in the morning. By 2 o'clock, there was a Congress. A Congress had been called to do exactly what we felt we were being deprived of. So we had to take the matter back there again. So that case was still lingering and lingering. So it was a fight for a particular right. And up to now, I don't think there's any single Olympian who has any regret for doing that. We had to do that because the system was stuck against us in the most cruel and unfair manner.
But the regulations of the FA require that you go to Court of Arbitration for sports.
This particular one had to do with human rights, rights of association. So we had to do that immediately. And there was a time schedule allotted to it, so we could not sit down for our rights to have been trampled for that time because they had been doing that a number of times during that particular regime under the FA. So we went to court. We have no regrets about that. And then when the normalization committee came on board, they all had lawyers on board. Yeah. They looked at the merits of the case and realized that if they were not able to solve that issue in the proper manner, Olympics were likely to go back again to the place. You know, so that was why they came to
Were these hints they picked up, or they just felt that based on the merits of the case, there was a possibility Olympics could do that? Because if you recall, this was in 2017, if my memory serves me right.
2017. The court case was in I think about 2017, 2018.
Yes, 2017. Mm-hmm. And then 2018, we still had a leak with that Great Olympics. So the normalization committee's decision to actually reinstate Great Olympics, just like you mentioned, many people actually feel that it was not the best.
The 2018 league was a novelty league or something.
No, the 2018 league actually started and truncated in June because of number 12.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But the case was still.
Yeah, it was still a pending case.
Yeah, it was still a pending case in court. So that issue had not been resolved then. It wasn't a matter of.
So was it a smart thing for the normalization committee to do that?
I think it was a smart thing for them to have done that, both in terms of common sense and the legal issues around the case, because they knew fully well. What's her name, Madam Odufule was there. Yeah. They had access to quite a number of lawyers who were advising them, and they could see that should Olympics pursue that case, there was no way we were going to lose. And they could also see that there was no reason why Olympics were not going to pursue that case. You know, so they looked at the facts of the case, they looked at the hints and the intelligence we were picking on the ground, and I think they took a mature decision.
They took a mature decision. The name of Now the Follow Northe was mentioned. I'll be telling something pretty interesting that she's doing for the FA in the latter part of this very show. But let's hear from the board chairman of Accra House of Oak, Togbe Afede, who's been speaking about the club's engagement with star player Daniel Afriye Bania to extend his contract with the Phobians.
We want to be able to retain, their membership of the club. So negotiations have been going on for a very, very long time now. You have no idea. Negotiations have been going on for more than a year now about the extension. He has always promised us that he would extend. So we are hoping that we can still sign with him now that, the match of Sunday was over. You remember he had to build up in the Black Galaxies, the Galaxies camp for some time, then the Black Stars camp, and also he's been very busy. And we decided to also, understand him and allow him to focus, for the good of his professional, aspirations. So we still are hopeful that we can get his signature onto the contract.
In the next 26 days, the global lenses will be switching to Qatar for the FIFA World Cup. Ghana is a part of the 32 nations that are competing in this year's Mundial, and a former president, the man who supervised Ghana's first ever participation in a FIFA World Cup, President Kufuor, has thrown his weight behind the senior national team to do well in this competition.
And I don't remember being given a trip like this even for 2006, even though I followed the team to Hanover, where we played our first match against Italy, which won the cup that year. And we performed so well. The only trouble was it seemed we suffered from stage fright. Otherwise, we should have beaten Italy, that became the champion of the world that year. But we beat America, we beat the Czechs that year. So, naturally, I support my side. And I give the side all the blessings I can pray for from the Almighty for the team to win and perform to the honor of our nation. I believe the boys can do it. I believe they've had exposure internationally, many of the players at least. And so stage fright should not be part of this tournament for as far as our side is concerned. What is left is for our side to play as a team. A lot of times we tend to be selfish with our play. So how we get the team to think together on the pitch, how we pass towards goal, and the strength. So I thought my big friend over there was a coach. He was looking at his stature there. You must be about 6'5" or so, 6'4". This is the first time we are meeting, but immediately I read you. We must be strong, physically strong, because our boys tend to fall too easily, as far as I can see.
There will be UEFA Champions League action tonight. Let's take a look at the fixtures of the matches that will be happening. We'll also be coming away with live commentary on Joy 99.7 FM. Tonight, Red Bull Salzburg will come up against Chelsea. Dynamo Zagreb will play AC Milan. Celtic will play Shakhtar Donetsk. RB Leipzig will play Real Madrid. Sevilla will play FC Copenhagen. Borussia Dortmund will play Manchester City. Benfica versus Juventus. And Paris Saint-Germain versus Maccabi Haifa. These are the fixtures for the UEFA Champions League match day 5 in the competition, as the boys are gradually being separated from the men in the competition. There were also Premier League action that happened last night. West Ham United, they won their game against Bournemouth. And in Spain, Ghana's Joseph Edu scored his first goal for his club Celta Vigo as they drew 1-1 against Getafe. I didn't mention the earlier that I had something to say about now the Follow Norte, who is the lawyer of the Ghana Football Association. She was a member of the normalization committee that drafted the current statutes of the Ghana Football Association. She is the lawyer representing the GFA in their contempt case at the Accra High Court, as well as the injunction request that has been made by Ashanti Gold against the Ghana Football Association, and also at the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Well, the statutes that she put together in 2019 for the GFA elections that happened exactly 3 years today. It happened on October 25. Well, she's been made to chair a committee that will review those same statutes, extending the mandate of the president of the Ghana Football Association from 2 to 3 times. They are a 5-member committee. We'll be sharing details with you on myjoyonline.com. The Ghana Premier League, which has 18 members, is going to be made a constituent body, and that will mean that they will have only 3 votes at Congress. Details on my Joy Online shortly. Muftar Nabila Abdullah here with AM Sports.
In and out, sometimes 60 cities. So because of that, you have to sleep at the site so that you can get the job done.
The salary I was receiving in January, that's the same as salary I'm taking now, but I spend more than 100 cedis on transportation.
I can sit at home for 4 months and go to work for a month. So how do you survive? You spend all your money, you can't even buy anything. You can't even save.
It is a busy morning in Accra's business district. Thousands of people are commuting to their various destinations. Among them are workers who, despite stagnant wages, are now spending more on transportation costs. Many people are now living on the outskirts of Accra to avoid paying high rents, but they are spending more money on transportation. They may have to board at least 2 vehicles to reach their destination. I hopped in to learn about the impact of transportation fares on people's wallets. I meet Richard, a carpenter on his way to see a client. His daily commute is at least 40 cedis. He has a wife and 6 children. With the responsibility of providing at least 15 cedis per day for each child, Richard says he feels a pressure cooker in his head. To save money on transportation, he sometimes sleeps at the workshop and only goes home on weekends.
In a day, because I don't have my destination is not a one-place destination, I can say roughly 40 cities, depending on where my site is. And in and out, sometimes 60 cities. So because of that, you have to sleep at the site so that you can get the job done. You have to save money. There's so much expenses. You are aware, children, school fees, feeding fees. I mean, it's a whole lot. Sometimes you want to give up, but you can't give up because you are giving birth to them already. You have to do all that you can to make sure that they go to school, they eat. So things are difficult.
An electrician seated in the back seat interrupts the conversation and shares his concerns. He earns 80 cedis as a daily wage, but more than a quarter is spent on transportation. According to him, he is unable to save.
My transportation cost me 25 cedis a day. Yeah.
Initially, how much were you spending?
Before about 15 cedis. I can sit at home for 4 months and go to work for a month. Sit at home for 4 months and go to work for a month. So how do you survive? When the work comes, it's like there is pressure on you, but when it's gone, that is all. Or when you're done with that is all. You have to wait.
So within that 4 months period, that you are waiting.
You spend all your money, you can't even buy anything. You can't even save because it's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
A combined 238% increment in diesel and petrol prices has shot up transport fares by 35% this year alone. This number is bound to go higher should the GPRTU get its proposed 40% increment. Drivers say the transport business is hanging by the thread. They barely break even. Oko tells me this year has been exceptionally difficult.
When my day ends, I hardly get my sales. The money is not even enough for fuel. Sometimes we have to manage till the following day because the price varies at the pumps. These days, I have adopted 1 gallon approach to sustain the business.
His colleague Asari is pushing for a fuel price adjustment or his income will dry up.
Fuel no price no the extra na adibechi within a month no probably 2 more 3 times a month it to miss but fuel in there e will be na ya kan obi amba sisi there madam first nanka meja me free fee meja be 30 cedi for the day.
As for the fuel price, it keeps shooting up. Within a month, the price can change about 3 times, yet the fare is static. We keep complaining, but nobody listens. Initially, 30 cedis housekeeping money was okay, but now, even 80 cedis is not enough. My expenditure has increased. I am paying so much, even my children's snacks. Something must be done about the fuel to save our business.
Passengers are tired of higher transportation fares, but drivers are pushing for them. Whose plea should be taken?
Welcome back to the AM show. Let's get into talking about the issues on the table this morning. We'll take you to Parliament shortly. But before we get there, the economy and its challenges is really impacting on everybody. And some people have started to take actions. One of them is, we've had a statement from Chief Nixon Biney, who says that he wants to picket at the office of the Vice President to really drum home the fact that he needs to act to get the economy working again. Now, he brought out a statement which I'll share with you shortly so that we can have a chat with him. Now, the statement says, and this really is a letter to the Ghana Police Service as requesting for permission for protection to picket at the office of the Vice President. He says that in compliance with the Public Order Act 491-1994, I wish to notify your office of a planned peaceful picketing at the office of the Vice President of Ghana on Friday, 28th October 2022. This peaceful demonstration is intended to call the attention of the Vice President of Ghana to the extreme economic hardships Ghanaians are going through and demand for solutions for saying, as a request required by the law, your protection will be welcome to ensure that lives and properties are protected, counting on usual cooperation. Hamilton Nixon Biney. He is joining us on Zoom or via Zoom for us to have a chat on this particular intention of his. Is it only him or he has other people joining him? Chief Nixon Biney, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother.
Are you alone or you have a group of people doing this?
Thank you. Good morning to yourself and then your cherished viewers. This picketing, as you read the letter, is something that I wrote as a citizen to go to the office of the Vice President and picket and send that message to him. But it's a matter of national interest. There are a lot of people facing the same challenges, and I'm expecting that due to the fact that the Vice President, has given a couple of lectures in the past telling us how best he could handle the economy, it will be only right for him to come out and give us some direction and hope. And so I will not be surprised that others may have interest in joining. And if they so wish, why not? We are sending the same message. So we will go together and then do the needful at the office.
So as it stands now, you are taking this action as a citizen, but you expect other citizens to join you.
Yes, I'm sure that I'm not the only person facing this hardship or facing these challenges as much as the economy is concerned. And so if I'm a citizen and there are other citizens who share the same view, why not? They can join.
Right. So you feel that the Vice President probably is not alert to what is happening, or you think there's more he can do that you're not seeing, and so this action is to get him to really think about those?
Yes, because of what he told us in the past and what he keeps telling us, we have the view that he has some economic prowess that he is supposed to, advise the government to make sure things get better. You remember, you recall the lectures that he did. He's the same person who gave us information as to how a dollar or foreign exchange can be arrested. And so I think that it is important that we call upon him, because I'm surprised that we are not hearing from him. Maybe somebody is not giving him the actual information on the ground. And so as a citizen, by the call of the president, advising that we ought to be citizens and not spectators, I strongly believe that this action will send some message to the Vice President, because we will deliver a petition. If I should go there, I will make sure I hand that petition over to them. And then at least if he should go through the petition, he will get to know that indeed, because there are a couple of things that will have to, draw his attention to what he has said and the belief that Ghanaians had in him. I think that is about time he shows to the people of this country that whoever he said he was, indeed, he is the same person, and he can help Ghana do better. That's all I'm calling on him to do.
He is the head of the economic management team, which is, managing the economy as it is. You don't believe that all he knows is what he's doing to manage the economy in this moment, and that your picketing will get him to do something different?
It is obvious that there is no hope. It is obvious that the Vice President and the government is not giving any direction. They have the authority actually to do all this. And like you rightly said, he's the head of the economic management team. In these times that we have no hope, it's important that especially the economic management team will tell us the direction at which we're going. I was watching JoyNews earlier, and if you should listen to taxi drivers, trotro drivers, artisans, traders, you realize that indeed people are suffering. People are really suffering. And so there should be a certain direction that sort of brings some hope to the people of this country. We cannot be seated hopeless like this, and then, we leave the people in authority to do whatever they want. We must draw their attention that times are hard. In fact, they promise to make things better. And so if for nothing at all, we must remind them so that they know that indeed the people are expecting something better than what they are doing. And if Ghana should get better, why? We all benefit, including they themselves. So it's important that we do this action to draw the attention of the head of the economic management team, to let him know that currently we are not appreciating the kind of management they are doing as an economic management team. And so they must up their game and get things better.
Well, we've been to the IMF and we expect a deal with the IMF. They've said that when the IMF agreement comes, it can help put back the economy in line. Isn't that something that the economic management team is doing and therefore should inspire you as a citizen, or you feel that, no, we cannot take it, we cannot wait for the IMF? There's something they should do before the IMF comes.
You know, it's important that they come out and give us a direction. Even IMF, you recall what we were discussing in this country, we were told strongly that we could do things here. Today we are in IMF, that's fine, if that will solve the problem, because other people have recommended that we take that move, and they thought that, no, they have the man. And so they keep changing positions. They say this today, they say that tomorrow. So I think it will be good for the vice president, to come out, for everybody to know that as the head, this is the direction. And I think that will be the language that we will all be, speaking as citizens, if we should get a direction from those in power, the authority that takes those decisions that will help, make things better for us as citizens. So I think that is a call in the right direction. And then on Friday, 7 a.m., we'll be at Kalkudi Park. And then from Kalkudi, if anybody should join me, fine. If not, I will take my steps from Kalkudi and then go to the Vice President's office and deliver that letter or that petition.
Okay. And how long will the picketing take?
Well, it shouldn't take too much time, but at least we just want to send a message. So if we have some an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, and then the message is sent, why not? We'll just drop the petition and go and continue with our daily business.
All right. What has been the response from the police in relation to the letter?
Oh, I must say it's been good. I had a meeting with the police yesterday. The regional commander was there, the 2IC, the operations commander for Greater Accra, the legal officer, almost all the hierarchy were there. And then we had some challenges with the end point, because they were of the view that the times that we are in, security-wise, they've got some intelligence that they think if others will follow me, then they have a problem allowing us to go to the office of the vice president. I said to them that, well, that is the intent. The petition is to go to the office of the vice president for that matter. So if they want to reach out to him, and he promised that he will meet us at probably the police headquarters, or he will meet us where he thinks that it will be safe in terms of security, why not? All we want to do is to make sure that that document goes to that office for him to pay attention and respond accordingly. And so however he wants to receive it, we will respect that.
All right. We'll look forward to Friday to see how it goes. What time are you starting?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay.
7 a.m. I'll be at the Kalkudi Park.
Okay. But you keep using the pronoun we. Do you anticipate that even as of now, some people will be joining, or you're using the we in anticipation of people joining on Friday?
I have some family. I have family members, and at least some people in my family has assured that they won't leave me alone. So we, at least myself and a couple of my people in the family, we want to support. And so why not? That's why I said if others are interested and they think that they share the same view and they are also citizens, I mean, it's better for them to be citizens than spectators. We must respect the call of the president.
Okay.
And if people want to join me, fine. But for now, I can assure you that if for nothing at all, some members of my family will join.
Okay. Chivani, all the best to you. We look forward to Friday to see how this goes. Grateful that you could find time to join us here on the AM show. And that's Nixon Biney there, popularly known as Chief Biney. He is someone who is He's a citizen who says he's going to picket at the office of the Vice President. He's also someone in the run to be the national organizer of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. Let's see how this goes on Friday. This is still the AM show. We'll take you to Parliament shortly for us to talk about the reconvening of the House, which is beginning today. One of the major issues on the agenda of the House for this meeting will be the determination of whether or not Sarah Adwoa Safo, Honorable, can still hold her seat as Member of Parliament for the people of Dom Kwabenya. You know that she stayed away more than the constitutionally mandated number of days. She could absent herself without, reason. So the Privileges Committee of the House had met and had recommended that she loses her seat. But that is something that the Speaker of the House would have to, together with the House, decide on. So we'll be able to tell how this will go. That's one major thing on the agenda, or we expect to be on the agenda of the House. We will take you there for you to understand how this is. But we also have that report ready, and then we'll be sharing that with you again when the House reconvenes. Details of that report will be made available. But again, we'll bring you this report so that you could understand what it is. Listen to that report we'll put together on what to expect.
On whether or not MP for Dom Kwabenya, Sarah Adwoa Safo, should keep her seat.
Mr. Speaker, the committees of this House has the authority to determine the urgency of a bill. Once they make a determination, it binds all of us. Plenary has no business in this. People should understand that. So this is not the first time a committee is authorized to make a declaration for on behalf of the House.
And the Parliament of Ghana is not the Speaker of Parliament. And that the Parliament and Parliament of Ghana is not the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. And that Parliament is not the majority leader, nor is it the minority leader. That the Parliament of Ghana is the well-constituted 275 members of Parliament elected thereon to exercise the legislative authority of Ghana on their behalf. On their behalf. And therefore, Mr. Speaker,
so a report has to come to this House, and the committee has to demonstrate to this House that the person was given the opportunity to exercise reasonable explanation, and the person did not provide reasonable explanation.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin deferred the decision to October when the House resumes.
I have consulted the old lady. The old lady has given me an advice, and I think that advice is correct, because the issue raised by the majority leader is both of substantive and procedural law. And I need time to submit to this House a reasoned, written ruling. I cannot, in the haste of today, give you the ruling.
Well, the time is due now, and with MPs returning from their constituencies on Tuesday, the Speaker's ruling is the most anticipated on the business agenda of the House. So this has been a long-drawn battle. The lines are drawn now. The majority side are going all out to argue that Sarah Adwoa Safo should lose her seat, whilst the minority, surprisingly, are rather supporting the Member of Parliament, saying, if anything at all, that debate must come to the floor, and the 275 members of Parliament should take that decision. It is expected to drag on for a while. When Parliament resumes in October, members will be expected to go back to this vexed question and take a decision that will potentially leave some precedent for the future. This Sarah Adwoa Safo saga is not going away. Parliament will also deal with a number of key issues at this meeting, including considering the 2023 budget and economic plan of government in the times of economic difficulties and hardship, as well as a number of bills. For Joy News, Kweku Asante.
So that was our report on what to expect in the House as they reconvene on this particular matter. We've been joined on Zoom by Dr. Rashid Rahman. He is the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thanks so much for finding time to join us, sir. Now, Parliament is reconvening. What are your expectations of what the House should be looking at in terms of all that happened before they went on recess?
For me, and I believe for most Ghanaians, we are living in very difficult times. And I believe that what we expect from Parliament between now and December, when they go on recess, is very serious scrutiny of government business in difficult times. Because I believe today, if you go out of your studio with your microphone and you talk to 10 out of 10 Ghanaians, the key issue that is on everybody's mind is the economy. So we believe that Parliament has a very, very important role during this time, particularly also because this is the budget period. We'll be looking at the economic policy of government. We'll be looking at all the happenings with the IMF program, and so on and so forth. So parliamentary scrutiny in difficult times, I believe this should be the #1 priority of our Parliament during this sitting.
You have a lot of experience in terms of how Parliament to do work. As we talk about the economy, what specific action or actions do you expect Parliament to take in these difficult times, or to help government in these difficult times?
Well, our country, as well as many other countries around the world, are now saddled with a lot of debt. There's a lot of talk today, I think, in economic circles among civil society organizations about the role that parliaments should be playing, not only in our country, but across the continent, in terms of how our countries would manage their debts. So I would expect that, one of the important roles that Parliament will play during this time is to carefully look at, what is it that it can do in order to make sure that our country doesn't sink further into a lot of debt. What is it that it can do in order to also make sure that, for instance, all the economic financial agreements that come before the House, how do we make sure that, whatever borrowing that our country is going to be making, these are going into alleviating the plight of the millions of Ghanaians that are under very harsh economic times. And then I think it's also important to make sure that whatever budget and economic policy that comes before the House, there is very serious negotiation and dialogue. We saw in the last budget session, we saw what happened with e-levy. It looked like the two sides did not see eye to eye. I think this is not the time for us to be going through those kinds of disagreements and infighting in Parliament and so on and so forth. There's a need for very serious discussions between the Minister for Finance, Parliament, particularly the minority group, so that we don't wait to the last minute, when programs are supposed to be approved before discussions start. Because at this period in our history, I think Ghanaians cannot stomach any disagreement and any infighting in Parliament that will delay economic policy programs of government and so on. We have to move with a lot of speed, but at the same time, we have to make sure that Parliament is watching with eagle eyes so that whatever money is being borrowed, whatever money is at the disposal of those who are the duty bearers in our country, those resources go to where they are supposed to go to.
And obviously, once the minority group would want to check on how the executive arm will be borrowing, there will be some misunderstandings, and we'll be expecting that those sort of infightings will come up. I'm not sure a discussion prior can really save the situation, isn't it? Shouldn't we expect to see some of these things looking at where we are?
Well, I mean, certainly a discussion prior would save the situation, because if you recall, during the last budget session, at the time when the argument was very heated, that was when the Minister for Finance said, let's withdraw, let me go and have a discussion with the minority. And the minority said, no, this is not the time for discussion. The time for discussion is over. So the point I'm making is that certainly there will be disagreements, because the ideological orientation of the two parties, even though these days they are all coming towards the middle, because we are seeing policies that usually we can't recognize whether they are actually coming from the right and so on. So the point is, those disagreements have to be resolved, during the first hour, not the 11th hour. And I believe if there are discussions, if there are negotiations, if there's a lot of dialogue, some of these disagreements can be ironed out, before they get to plenary. So that's the point I am making here.
Okay. We anticipate that the Sarah Adwoa Safo issue will be will be high on the table. Is that something you do expect as well, or because of the economic challenges, you feel that it's something that won't really be on high this time around?
Well, I mean, I believe it will come back, but look, this is a non-issue. To be very honest, this is a non-issue, because the Constitution is clear, the standing orders are clear. The Honorable Member has vacated her seat. So all that maybe the Right Honorable Speaker will be doing is just perhaps maybe recounting what the Constitution says and what the standing orders say. Because even the Right Honorable Speaker technically has no power to dismiss anybody from Parliament. The Constitution is clear. Member of Parliament vacates his or her seat. I mean, those are the renditions of the Constitution. And I think through the actions of the Honorable Member, I mean, political arguments are being made here and there, but through the actions of the Honorable Member of Parliament, she has vacated her seat. So I think Parliament should not be wasting precious time on this matter. There are very serious matters of the economy that they have to deal with. They should dispose of this issue very quickly and move to making sure that our country is stable and our economy is stable, and then the plight of the millions of Ghanaians are addressed.
But obviously the Member of Parliament herself would disagree with your point there, that she has vacated, because she says she is still the Member of Parliament for the people of Dom Kwabena.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, she can disagree with my view, but I'm just looking at what the Constitution and what the rules say. I'm not the one who crafted the Constitution, and I think it's quite clear how many days, weeks, months, and perhaps even almost a year has the member of parliament been absent from parliament? I think it's very clear.
Yeah.
So please, I mean, we shouldn't be playing with these matters. Otherwise, we are setting a very, very bad precedent. I know the two sides are playing politics with this. It is very clear because it is in the advantage of one group or the other. I mean, her continuous absence gives an advantage to one group. And I think that is what is the issue, not what the rules say. The rules are quite clear. The rules are quite clear.
Okay. But what does it mean for Parliament itself to be going against the provisions of the Constitution? Because the Constitution, as you say, makes it clear that it should be read. So if Parliament is dilly-dallying with it, it has grave consequences, isn't it?
Indeed. And that is why, if you remember, during the budget period, when we had a challenge of the first deputy speaker trying to vote, and then there was all the confusion that ensued. And then eventually, what did we see? We saw a precedent that was set. The Supreme Court had to get involved to interpret the Constitution for us. And I think that that's what Parliament should avoid. Because if we get to a point where each time the Supreme Court has to get involved to tell Parliament what it should do, I believe it's not good for our country. And I think it's mainly because of the fact that the two sides cannot agree and cannot see clearly, eye to eye, in terms of what the rules say.
Okay. All right. Samuel Bing is the Executive Director of the Parliamentary Network Africa. He is also joining us on this discussion. Sami, good morning and welcome. What is your expectation like as Parliamentary convenes today?
I couldn't agree with Dr. Draman more in some of the earlier points that he had made, at least from the time that I joined. But to say that, look, in a country where we are in such dire economic situation, Parliament must come to the party, you know. People are expecting that their representatives would actually show reason why they are representatives of the people, you know, in these very, very critical times. In a time when, you know, the economy seemed to be, you know, or had taken a nosedive, and communication is scanty and nobody's telling anybody anything except for calling our bluffs, in a situation where, you know, the people are struggling. We are all struggling. We expect that our representatives in that house of accountability, in that house of holding the executive to check, would be calling on or will be taking advantage of the tools available to them to let us know why they truly. This is the third meeting of the second session of this current parliament. Third meetings are the budget meetings. And of course, this couldn't have been a better time to have parliament reconvene. I wished personally that, you know, parliament would have come back earlier with all that the country had been going through. We've had many instances where, under very not so serious circumstances, Parliament have resumed earlier, you know, to be able to discuss certain matters. I really think that having Parliament come on the 25th of October, when we know that the certainly will be out of Parliament again before the 25th of December, is some lost time. But be that as it may, we still believe that better late than never. As they are back, they will be able to do the needful, because all eyes would actually be on Parliament.
But the greater work lies with the executive. Parliament would have its say, like they always say, the minority will have its say, but majority will have its way. What do you expect Parliament can really do to really help us in this circumstance we are in? Dr. Dawan has spoken about the fact that they need to, you know, scrutinize the policies and the budgets that will be coming in. But the executive would have to have a meeting with Parliament before, it comes to the floor, so that we don't have that banter. In your own, perspective, what do you think the Parliament can effectively do in helping us out of where we are?
I have argued that the minority having their say and majority having their way mantra does not apply in this 8th Parliament, really. And anybody in that Parliament that cites that in this 8th Parliament really should be treated with the contempt that he or she deserves, because the people of Ghana in the elections of 2020 voted a very unique parliament, one that should be able to stand with us, by us, and for us in such critical times. And of course, Dr. Draman had indicated a bit about what Parliament can do so far as the budget is concerned. In fact, one of the things that I personally expect as an immediate situation when the House resumes is that people who are managing our economy must come to Parliament to speak to us through our representatives. We cannot have a situation where everybody is gone silent. Once in a while, a meeting is ended with the IMF, for example, and we receive a 1-pager, 2-pager press statement, and that is it. In a situation, in a time which, in my opinion, is as critical as we found ourselves when COVID hit us, and we were being addressed almost on a weekly basis. We cannot sit idle and not hear from those who are managing our economy. When, I go buy something today and 2 weeks from now when I do, I buy it at 2-3 times the price when I am supposed to do business as a trader, and the dollar rate is not allowing me to be able to achieve what I need to achieve. I expect that Parliament will use the tools available to them. And there are many, many tools available to Parliament. So let the people who need to speak to the people of Ghana know that you must be speaking to the people of Ghana through their representatives. Of course, the media will be covering it, will be hearing it. I think that some of these things would even help bring some calm, when we are able to hear from our leaders through our representatives, when we are able to understand exactly what they are doing and how they are doing it and how quickly it will be able to turn around the situation for us. So the tools are available to Parliament, whether it's at committees, whether it is through statements on the floor of Parliament, whether it's through parliamentary questings, whether it's through emergency situations or meetings or convenings with the central bank folks, with the Ministry of Finance folks, with whoever. I think that and of course in places where Parliament and the executive are serious about the work that they need to do and the effect that it has on the people of the country, we would have the executive having almost daily conversation with the legislature in these times. We would have the presidency move to the parliamentary enclave almost on a daily basis to have conversations, to have discussions, so that we can be able to put minds together. Because at this stage, it is no longer an MPP and NDC situation. It is no longer a majority-minority situation. It's a Ghana crisis. And we all have to get involved as Ghanaians to be able to get ourselves out of this crisis situation. So there's so much that Parliament can do. And especially around this time, it is so critical.
I'll come back to the economy issue, but let me have your thought on whether or not you feel it should, how the Adwoa Safo conundrum should be handled once Parliament reconvenes from today.
Well, Speaker Baldwin told us that he needed to have a reasoned ruling on the matter. He didn't think that he wanted to rush it on a day that the House was rising, and so he needed time. Fortunately, he's had so much time, so much time. We expect that he would have written a reasoned ruling by now. Like Dr. Draman said, some of us are not expecting any ruling different from what must be done. I don't think that the honorable member for the Dom Kwabenya constituency has any business in Parliament. I've said this many times, and I don't expect that the Speaker's ruling will be any different from that. We'll be waiting and watching, and like Dr. Draman said, around this time when we have major issues to talk about, we do not expect that they would come into the House and will be dilly-dallying around such trivial issues, in my opinion, when there are more critical, bigger, weightier matters to be dealt with. So I expect that the Speaker will dispose of this particular subject matter, even today, as the first sitting day, and then we can move to the more grave, issues that we need to deal with.
Back to the economic issue. I know that our parliamentary setting is quite different from that of Britain. But with what we've seen in Britain in the last couple of weeks, Can our parliament have any sort of reflection in that area in terms of there's been calls for the finance minister to be fired? Is there anything Parliament can do, Dr. Dawan, if you can start for me? Can Parliament really do anything in this regard, taking a cue from what has happened in Britain, even though our settings are two different things altogether?
Well, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, I think, yes, I mean, as you rightly said, the settings are different. Because in England, I mean, in the parliamentary Westminster system, once your economic policy is defeated, then I think not only the minister is fired, I mean, the whole government is fired. You know, unfortunately, we don't have, I mean, the same system here. There have been calls for, you know, the minister to be fired. I even had calls, I mean, yesterday, talking to some media group that the president should be impeached and so on. Now, granted, we have a hung parliament, we have almost equal numbers. But when it comes to matters such as this one, firing the president, firing the minister, and so on, I think you need higher numbers. And at this time, I am not too sure whether, for instance, even if the minority is minded to make sure that the minister is fired or censured and so on, they can muster the 2/3 number that is needed. They have 136 or so, and I think they need about half of the other side to join them in order for some of these things to be possible. I think maybe, I mean, what we were all expecting is that those who have failed in terms of managing the economy will do the honorable thing. Because we saw in England, the Prime Minister said, you know, I can't govern anymore because of the fact that her policy, you know, sent the country crashing, I mean, economically.
Yeah.
Many are finding some comparables to what is happening in our country, that those who are managing our economy have sent our economy crashing. And, you know, they should do the honorable thing. I mean, we cannot rely on Parliament because we know politics will not allow that to happen. But I think they should rely on their own morals, their own ethics, and their own integrity, and say, look, this is difficult for me. I can't do it. Let me leave the space and let somebody else come and do the job.
Well, quite a difficult thing to happen in Ghana. So,
indeed.
I'm sure we won't expect that to happen. But and if Parliament can't do anything, then we can probably learn to cope with the situation and see how. Government has really said they are going to do other things to help turn around the situation. Yesterday, the Minister of Information made us aware that there are some steps government is going to take. For example, the Bank of Ghana is meeting with universal banks and forest bureaus to talk about how the dollar can be regulated. Even though we are talking about, you know, Parliament, but in that regard, does that inspire any hope for you? Maybe, Sammy, you start with this. Okay, Dr. Damaras, you started. Maybe conclude for me, and then I'll come to Sammy.
Okay, all right. So I just want to say that I think our country has been here many, many times before, even though this time is unprecedented. I'm talking about the depreciation of the cedi, and then the fundamentals of our economy. Look, I'm not an economist, but the little economics that I did in the university tells me that, you know, if our economy is dependent on imports, everything that we do in this country, I think about 90%, even the food that we eat is imported. There's going to be pressure on our currency every single day. Look, let me give you a very simple example. I went to a Southern African country recently. I went to Botswana. And then there was a bit of a shortage of onions in the supermarkets. Then I started asking people in Parliament, what is going on here? And they told me that It's not only onions, but many food items. The government has banned the importation of those food items because it puts a lot of pressure on their currency. And so then I ask the next question. So why don't you become self-sufficient before you ban the imports of these items? They say, no, we have tried it before. If you want to become self-sufficient, it's going to take a very long time when you give people the latitude. You have to force people and you have to force policy. In this country, when this government came to power, we had a number of flagship programs, and maybe the one of them, I believe, is Planting for Food and Jobs. Mm-hmm. And the goal of that program was supposed to make us self-sufficient. Very laudable program. If we're self-sufficient in food, I believe if you ask the economists, they will tell you how much our country spends on importing rice, how much our country spends on importing oil, mm-hmm. how much our country spends on importing even basic things like apple, bananas, and so on. Even tomatoes. I spent many years in Burkina Faso, and every single day, Burkina Faso, a landlocked country, a dry country, is a country that is feeding our country with tomatoes. And foreign exchange goes across the border every single day. Mm. The cabinet can talk, till the sun goes down. If we don't address some of these fundamental things, this is not the last time that whoever is in power will be dealing with the depreciation of the cedi.
According to OEC, in 2020, Ghana exported $222,000 of rice, making it the 170th largest exporter of rice in the world. This is exporting, the data I have here, but if you look at import, we imported $391 million worth of rice into Ghana in 2020 alone. And then we exported 222,000. So that is to give us, an estimate of how much we spend on import alone. And the import is $391 million of rice in 2020 alone. So it tells you that we do spend a lot. But so, Doc, we know that in Nigeria, during Obasanjo's time, a decision had to be taken in terms of rice, for example, that it's enough, we should eat what we grow. Can Parliament, and Sam, if you can tackle this for me, can Parliament really help in legislating at this moment in time to say that, well, what we can do to help our city is to say that these and these produce the importation of those should be banned. Rice, maize, millet, and those. Can Parliament really take that decision from the premises that Doug gave, that if we want to be self-sufficient before, we may not really get there any moment soon?
Well, Parliament can certainly involve itself in a lot of areas and ways that can help bring our economy back to normal in the short, medium, to long term. Of course, you speak about legislation. We know very much that legislation of such or laws of such magnitude are ones that certainly must have some buy-in from the executive branch, because usually you would have them introduce such laws in there and what have you. But I think that the critical point and the critical role that Parliament has to play in this is that Parliament, at its committee level, by its very composition as a house that is made up of representatives from the various parts of our country, has a role to play in ensuring that these conversations get started, in ensuring that the duty bearers are called out and asked to take critical, decisive action they have a responsibility to ensure that they come together, work together in these times, let the minds meet, bring their critical expertise from either side together to have conversations around these. They also have a responsibility to move beyond the talk, because you see, in many of the instances, many of the times when we have had, crisis of this nature, yes, you would have an institution of parliament, which by its very nature is expected to talk, to debate, to have conversations around such matters, have many debates, have many statements, have many conversations and discussions on the floor of parliament, make some very bold declarations and recommendations, but nobody takes anything forward, and then it is only left in the hands. I'm certain that if we took a journey down memory lane to be able to figure out in times when we have found ourselves in such depreciating situation of our currency, we would find marvelous statements on the floor of parliament that the Hansards have captured with recommendations on how we can be able to better solve this. I think that what we need is action beyond the talk. And action beyond the talk comes through policies, comes through uniting as a nation to making bold steps, bold decisions that can help change things. Because we all know that the reason why we are in this vicious cycle, where we come back to this same situation year in, year out, whether it's about inflation, whether it's about our currency, whether it's about excessive spending and what have you, is that we still hover around the same, situation. Nothing changes. Window dressed sometimes, it solves the problem temporarily, and then we come back to the same situation. So now we are supposed to have our House of Representatives, being added with us and saying enough is enough. If it has to take a law for us to be able to get out of some of these situations, a law there must be. If it has to take some clear directives from the institution of parliament, working with the executive to have some of these things done, certainly that it must be. If it has to take some of the expertise in parliament, and parliament taking advantage of its committee system to also gather other experts in our country through public participation to make contributions to why or how we can get out of this quagmire, so must it be. There's so much that parliament can do, in my opinion, and there's so much that the kind of parliament that we currently have can do. And it's my expectation that they would not come back and play the usual, party politics with this situation, because at this stage where we are, the forex bureaus will not ask you for your party card when you come wanting to exchange your money to do business. And the ports and the people that are important to us would not ask for which party one belongs when they have to trade with you and do business with you. It is purely a situation which requires all of us to come together. And yes, Parliament can play a very critical role in this, not just necessarily in legislating, but even in piling pressure on the executive branch to take the actions that they've got to take. In even deciding to include in their business statements on a weekly basis that, look, this parliament, between now and when parliament goes on recess again in December, every week, finance minister, please brief the house so that the people would hear from you on what is going on. Steps like that could help bring back a lot of confidence into the system while they deal with the medium to long-term policies and things that needs to be done to get us out of this, almost perpetual cycle.
Dr. Dawan, so if Parliament should ask you to consult for them on what to do in these times to help alleviate the challenges on the masses, what would you tell them? Doc?
I think I was muted. What I would tell them is, look, at this time, a lot of our vulnerable citizens need some cushioning. People are on fixed, very low incomes, yet prices keep skyrocketing. These people need help. We need to find money somewhere. Money is difficult to come by because right now, I don't know whether our country can even borrow money. I mean, if what we are hearing from the rating agencies, because I know, as a person, when your credit history is bad, nobody wants to give you any money.
Sure.
So at the macro level, if a country's credit history is bad, I mean, that's how I translate it because, like I said, I'm not an economist, but if I understand the ratings, if they say junk, and that means it might be very difficult for us to borrow money. But at the same time, we have to find money. And there's been a lot of calls to cut down on government expenditure. I think recently I saw some simple analysis in terms of even how government moves. I mean, the cost of government, I mean, the presidency moving from one place to the other, the cost of running our country. I think for me, if I were to advise Parliament, I would say there should be some dialogue with the executive to see where is it that we can cut. And I believe we can cut the size of our government. We can save a lot of money from there, and we can use some of that at least to perhaps maybe make some social interventions in order to help the most vulnerable of our citizens. I think the second thing, again, I will come to that over and over. When it comes to financial scrutiny, when it comes to watching our finances carefully with eagle eyes and making sure, like Sami said, I mean, the money doesn't have any color. When you want to go to exchange money at the Forex Bureau or when the economy is in difficulty, I mean, we are all in it, whether you carry an MPP card or you carry an NDC card and so on. Our parliament and most parliaments on the continent over the years have woefully failed when it comes to financial scrutiny. And I think our parliament is notorious for that because we have done some studies in the past which placed our parliament far behind some of her peers in terms of making sure that financial scrutiny is done in a way that is devoid of politics. We saw what happened during the e-levy. You know, our parliamentarians could not come together to at least see clearly what Ghanaians were talking about. And so I think, you know, financial scrutiny, like I said, particularly during hard times, should be one of the things that Parliament should be doing. And I believe there is a lot of talent in this country that can support Parliament. Parliament can draw from most of this talent in order to help shape policy. But at the same time, I think we run a presidential system where the president runs the executive and Parliament is independent of the executive. So I think dialogue, a lot of it has to happen during this time. Like Sami was saying, you know, this is a time when the executive should move to the parliamentary enclave. This is a time when we should have our ministers and those who are responsible for running our economy addressing representatives and addressing us through the representatives almost on a daily or weekly basis. So I think these are some of the things that Parliament should be doing. Let them put the politics aside. I know it's easier said than done. But I think at this time, we want all of them to rise beyond partisan politics, to look at what is Ghanaian, to look at the Ghana project. And we don't want a situation where some crazy person would wake up and say there's a vacuum, our elite cannot understand each other and cannot work together, and let me come and take power. And we have seen those excuses in our neighboring countries, isn't it? And I think that those should be very serious lessons for our leaders, because we are playing with fire. I mean, if we continue to play politics with matters such as these ones, especially matters that affect, you know, the livelihoods of people.
Okay, all right. So there's a period where partisan politics should not take center stage in Parliament, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Now, so just as we wrap up, I'll give you each a minute to share with us your concluding remarks. But let me ask this question. How disappointed will you be if the Speaker goes ahead to make a ruling that Sarah Adwoa Safo can still hold on to her seat as Member of Parliament?
Look, as Sami said, I mean, we don't expect anything different from what the books, and the books here, I'm referring to the Constitution and the standing orders. Over the years, let me be very candid here. You know, many Ghanaians have not had any confidence in the Privileges Committee because many Ghanaians have argued that Parliament has failed in terms of managing its own kind of internal issues. I mean, when it comes to overseeing its own shortcomings, usually matters are referred to the Privileges Committee, and then that is almost like sending them to the grave. So this is a very important test case. A precedent is going to be set, and I think all eyes are on the Right Honourable Speaker. And like I said, the Right Honourable Speaker is going to, I mean, it's not going to do anything more than just pronounce what the books say. And I hope he will do the right thing.
Okay. If that is the case, then we can start writing that Sarah Adwoa Safo has lost her seat, isn't it? Because that's what the book
I mean,
says.
I mean, as you have seen over the many months, something that is quite straightforward has not been straightforward. So, I mean, I don't know, but like we've been saying, our country is sinking, so are many countries. And Parliament should spend time on a daily basis, every single minute that they sit in that house, they should be dealing with our economy and not trivial issues like some honorable member of Parliament has decided to just go away and then use all kinds of technicalities to still hold on to her seat. I mean, this issue must be dismissed of, I mean, must be disposed of as quickly as possible so that our representatives can move on to dealing with, I mean, the serious matter of getting us out of these economic difficulties that we all currently are facing.
Thank you very much. Sami, let me bring you in for your concluding remarks on this.
Yeah, I think that there's nothing more to say on the Honorable Dom Kwabena MP situation. I mean, we expect that Parliament, if they want us to take them seriously, as an institution that wants to deal with absenteeism, as an institution that the people must regard and take seriously for what it is, they must do the needful. And the Speaker is well clothed with experience and reputation of the institution, and he himself, you know, being on the line. But by way of closing comments, this meeting of Parliament is a critical one. It is one that will make the citizenry know whether, when push comes to shove, and our House of Representatives must show that they are there for us, they are with us, they are our people, and they are standing with us. Indeed, they are able to stand with us. And so Parliament must know that for its own PR purposes, for its own institutional reputation purposes, it must not, we must not see some of the things that we have seen in previous meetings in Parliament. They must live beyond reproach, because that's what we expect of them.
Thank you very much, Samuel Kojo. Samuel Kojo is the Executive Director of the Parliamentary Network Africa. Earlier, you heard Dr. Rashid Draman. He is the Director, the Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. WhatsApp is down for thousands of customers. So Kobe Spikey has joined us on phone with some education, because if you realize, for some minute or between 30 minutes and 1 hour, you've suffered to get access to WhatsApp. I have sent messages and it's not going through. So what's happening? We are learning that WhatsApp is down. Kobe is really an IT guru, and he joins us with more explanation. Kobe, thanks for joining us. What's happening?
Hi. So we don't know for sure what exactly is happening. It could be a glitch in the system, as with every computer system could happen, or it could also be as a result of an upgrade or an update, like which happened some time ago when Meta, the mother company of Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, was doing some routine maintenance, and something got knocked off. Then we were taken down. So there's a possibility that either
unfortunate, because I wanted us to understand the sort of impact this has on us as customers or as users of the app. Are there any impact that it will have? Would that be negative? So these are things I wanted Kobe to help us with. Okay, so we have Kobe again. Kobe, let us understand the sort of impact this has on us, the end users.
A lot of people, like for instance, a lot of people send messages, receive messages on WhatsApp. We've evolved from SMS to WhatsApp. And I think a few moments ago, before this conversation, I was talking to someone, and the person was asking me about WhatsApp being down, and I said yes. And the person asked me to send them something on WhatsApp, because it's become part of us. It's the same way you wake up in the morning and you Google stuff. It's become a part of us. So, and businesses run on WhatsApp. Some small and medium-scale businesses run on WhatsApp. That's how clients interact with them. And in some countries, people actually accept payments on WhatsApp. So it would affect or impact the end user a lot when such systems are down.
But what if it turns out to be a hack? I've seen someone asking the question, has it been hacked? If it has, what are we looking at in terms of impact on us?
So if it's been hacked, that's the thing. There's so many things that could happen if a system like WhatsApp gets hacked. Either they're taking them down so they can affect operations and essentially affect their revenue, or basically extract user details. So every user on WhatsApp has their information stored, i.e. your phone number and, device model, so many details that are associated with that. So if hackers attack a system like WhatsApp, that's what they're either going there to look for, either data or to just disrupt operations. It's highly unlikely that they're there for monetary reasons, unless obviously they want to hold a system at ransom and ask Meta to pay them some money before they release it. But Meta being such a huge company, I don't think it'd be, let me take those words back. There's nothing impossible in this world. So yes, everything is possible. So we just wait for them to come out with an official statement saying what exactly happened. Until then, we can only speculate that either routine maintenance gone wrong, a disruption in service due to a glitch in the system, or like you said, an attack on their servers by hackers.
Okay. All right, Kobe, I'm grateful that you could join us with this education. Kobe Spiky is an IT guru. He is with us here at Multimedia. We'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with more interactions here on the AM show. Stay with us.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. It's now time to move on with our second big story, and it's about the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources scaling up its fight against galamsey. Now, the ministry is asking all owners, operators, and all users of excavators in the country to register their excavators with their MMDCEs within 7 days, and they have to do it in that jurisdiction where the excavator is located. Today, we'll discuss this with Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow, and Dr. Steve Mantiao, a policy analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the program. Let me start with you, Dr. Steve Mantiao. There have been calls for government to be more pragmatic in our steps against the fight against galamsey. What would you say about this latest measure? Hello, Dr. Mantiao.
You hear me?
Right, I can.
Good.
I hope you got my question.
Yeah, I did.
Great.
I heard it.
Well, I think the latest development is an attempt to provide legislative backing for some additional action in the fight against galamsey, and I think it's in the right direction. Much as we are all in sync by this menace, it is important that whatever we do actually is done in accordance with law. And so seeking to provide legislative backing for a planned action is the right thing to do. With that said, I'm at a loss as to what happened to some amendments that were done to the regulations at the beginning of the year. I think the current regulations require that prior to even importing equipment for the purposes of mining, especially in this case excavators, you are required to seek prior permission from the Minister of Transport, who then also confers with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources before granting the permit for you to import the equipment into the country. Now, once the equipment arrives, it is supposed to be registered right at the port and a tracking system provided for it, so that the equipment is able to track the equipment within the country. But way back in July, I think the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources informed us that the control room for tracking the excavators was going to be ready soon. But it looks like we all went to sleep. We haven't heard anything about this tracking system. How is it being enforced? Have there been infractions? What is the success story? For me, it is this messaging that would actually deter people from engaging in the illegality that we are seeking to curb. If, for instance, you have a tracking system and you are giving feedback to the public in terms of how well it is working and how people are being punished for flouting the regulations, how many excavators are being seized and confiscated, and the rest, then, of course, you are sending a clear message that you are intolerant of the illegality in the ASM sector. But this is not the case. We haven't heard anything, and suddenly we have a new ally going through, which is also seeking to register. But on this occasion, at the local level, it creates some kind of confusion, which I think needs to be sorted out.
It's interesting that you bring the previous measure, which has to deal with the tracking right at the importation stage. One may say that this new measure is to deal and track excavators that are already or that existed prior to the introduction of that law. Let me go to Dr. Kwapo now. Doc, we've been having this conversation for a very long time about the fight against galamsey and government putting in realistic measures. Would you call this one of them?
Well, good morning. I think that anything that chips away at the way this galamsey thing is done is always a step in the right direction, right? We've seen how highly mechanized galamsey operations have become over the last, several years. And so if it's been identified that the use of these excavators for illegal mining activities is one of the things that we must clamp down on, then I think it's a step in the right direction. We have to remember that we tried the seizing of excavators not too long ago as part of the fight, against galamsey, and that, in my estimation, at the end of the day, did not yield the sort of positive benefits that we were expecting to. But in this case, if it's been determined that if you bring in an excavator to say you're going to use it for purpose X, then we should be able to monitor, track, and ensure that you are using it for that purpose and not for another purpose. So I think we would have to wait and see, one, the extent of compliance with this new directive that gives owners of excavators that 7-day ultimatum to register with their MMDA, specify exactly why you have one, what you use it for. I'm just curious to see that once the registration process is completed, what monitoring mechanisms would be in place to ensure that, let's say, if I, John, registered my excavator for purpose A, and then I turn around and use it for a totally different purpose, how the MMDA is, because I'm assuming that once you are registering in your local government jurisdiction, they would have primary responsibility for tracking, monitoring, and enforcement. So I'll be curious to see what sort of mechanisms would be used to ensure that if you came to register your excavator for a particular purpose, that is precisely the purpose to which you're putting your excavator. And then if you also don't go and register, what are the consequences for failing to register within the 7-day period?
Dr. Steve Mantiao, when he raises concerns about the communications thereafter, for example, so the tracking devices placed on excavators that are brought into the country, how many people or how many excavators have been tracked? What have we observed? Some will suggest that for security reasons, it may be inappropriate to let us in as the general public on all of this. What are your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I share those concerns. If really there are some security reasons at stake, then you have to be very careful in how you manage that information and how much of that information then gets shared with the public, right? At least if the public is in the know that, look, we are making sure that we are on top of the use of these excavators for other purposes besides that which it was brought into the country and sent to a particular jurisdiction. I think that's that's positive, but the whole security concerns and ensuring that you also don't do anything that has unintended consequences, I think are very legitimate concerns to be raised.
So I'm looking at the press statement released by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and I'm seeing the third point on steps to follow when it comes to registration of the excavators. And it says an owner, operator, and/or user of an excavator shall, at the time of registration, specify the purpose for which the excavator is being used or to be used, and the area where the excavator is being used or will be used, as the case may be. So let's take a scenario, and this is for you, Dr. Kwapong and Dr. Mantiao. You'd answer one after the other. I have seen construction firms move from one area to the other. Sometimes they use these excavators for digging, for dugouts and other purposes on construction sites. Here, we are being told that the purpose should be given as at the time of registration and for what purpose as well. Would you say that this is restrictive? Does the policy, as stated in this statement, give reason for you to worry about some of these intricacies within the space? Let me start with you, Dr. Mantiao.
I wouldn't see this as restricted. This is the normal practice, even in respect of automobiles. You bring in a car today, and you intend to use it for a private purpose, as a private transport. At some point, when you decide to use it for commercial purposes, you go to the DVLA to effect a change of use. So I do not see any particular problem with it. It could be that, look, at the time you brought it in and at the time of registration, it was purposely for mining. If later you decide that you want to change the use to, let's say, construction, I do not see how you cannot go back to the assembly to inform them and get the appropriate approval.
Right. For you, Dr. Kwapong.
Dr. Miantiao's sentiments as well. I'm also wondering if in the registration process, particularly given the scenario that you created, right, that let's say for a construction firm or for someone who may use an excavator for legitimate multiple purposes, I'm wondering if in the registration process, you'll be allowed to say, you know, I have these 3 different excavators. I use one to dig boreholes. I use another one to dig dugouts. I use another one for my construction sites where I build houses, for example. Then, or even if it's a single excavator for multiple purposes, maybe there'll be an opportunity to do that. If you use it for a single purpose and at some point you change your mind that I'm going to now use the excavator for something else, again, I'm sure that in the whole administrative process setup that you'll be able to go back to the MMDA and re-register. And again, you would have to indicate why that change of purpose. Because I think in all of this, the effort here is to ensure that the excavators are being used for legitimate economic activity and not being diverted to these galamsey sites.
It'll be great to hear from the ministry on whether such processes exist, especially about the use. A construction company will still indicate that this excavator is being used for construction purposes, but about the location of use, that's where there may be an issue. But hopefully, as the days go by, we may be able to get a response from the ministry. So, since we started this recent conversation about illegal mining and our fight against this, there have been those who said blame the president for not putting his presidency on the line, as he said. There are those who say blame chiefs. There are those who bring it to the doorstep of local government. Would you say that involving the MMDAs in particular in this process is decentralizing the fight enough, Dr. Kwapong?
Yes, and in fact, I think that sometimes, given the nature of a particular public problem that you're dealing with, you want to place it primarily on the doorsteps of your unit of government that is closest to the problem. So if you look at the nature of galamsey, so yes, it's very important that the president, sets the policy priority, gives the strong signal that we will fight this. It's very important that the ministry would also put in a policy, legal framework and all of that. But I think if you look at exactly where the galamsey problem occurs, the role of the local government becomes very, very critical. And so for me, giving them more power, strengthening their hands to be able to really fight this menace is a step in the right direction.
And Dr. Steve Mantia, would you say that this sort of boosts the confidence of MMDCs? I remember we spoke to one of them, Mr. Bonzo, who had a bit of an issue with the police when it came to some excavators that were being used, according to him, for illegal mining purposes. I'm sure you followed that story. Would you say that this directive by the Ministry of Lands gives them some sort of power if at any point they felt that they were being left out in the fight?
Have always been involved in the permitting processes for the purposes of mining. In fact, there are rules that require that they place notice of intent to grant any lease on their notice boards and all that. So they've been involved. Again, if you consider the fact that they are the representatives of the president at the local level and they are the development agents. So, of course, they already do have some powers and responsibilities at the local level. And so if they are not aware, then that is unfortunate. Now, I do not see how these new regulations give them or boost their confidence, because it is not too clear from the draft legislation that we've seen what new powers are being given the MMDC. They are only supposed to register and ensure that all the excavators in their jurisdiction are known and recorded. And that is that. It doesn't give them any powers to do anything beyond the registration. And that is why I do not see how that can boost their confidence. Again, I think that if we're not careful, we'll rather be complicating the problem we are trying to deal with. Because now, the MMDCs, and from the LI, that's the impression I get, the registration is going to be done manually, but there's no indication that there's going to be an electronic database. So it raises the question as to how you monitor compliance. Because look, if you are going to, on the basis of the registration, create an electronic database so that when inspectors move to the field and they find a particular excavator with a particular registration number, they can actually key in the registration number into the database for confirmation as to whether this particular excavator is registered or not. And therefore, you are moving a step further in terms of ensuring compliance and ridding the sector of illegal or unauthorized excavators that are committing illegality in the mining sector. So I think that the regulations really is not exhaustive in terms of dealing with the issue comprehensively at the local level.
So what do you think government can do to deal with it comprehensively at the local level?
Precisely the point I make, that look, there was a time I was in Shama. This was years ago, about 6, 7, 8 years ago. I was in Shama, and the communities reported to me that there was some small-scale mining going on in the district, but they are not too sure whether it's legal or illegal. At the time, the Deputy Inspector of Mines at the Minerals Commission was a friend. I served with him on a committee. So I just picked the phone and called him. And then he checked and then gave me feedback immediately, and I informed the community. There's a way in which, by automating the search, we are able to actually, at the local level, confirm whether whatever activity is being undertaken by any person is lawful or unlawful. And so what we need, and I think the Minerals Commission has the responsibility to do that. They have a mining cadastral system, and if they can incorporate into that cadastral system all the mining leases, small scale, large scale, I know they have the large scale, I'm not too sure about the small scale, so that if I find a particular activity, there should be a code that I can just key in to confirm whether that activity is lawful or unlawful. Same with the excavators. If we are going to register, then let's create a database that enables people, or inspectors, regulators, whoever, even the assembly itself, to confirm from the field. It may be in the field, but by keying the code, the registration code of the excavator, they should be able to confirm whether it's lawful and in the right location it's supposed to be or not.
Right. Doc, we'll quickly be wrapping up this conversation, but in doing so, I'd just like to throw in, I don't know if any of you have been following what's happening in court with regards to the Aisha Huang case, but we were in court yesterday, and a bail application by her lawyer was dismissed again. The judge, at the initial one, said that she was flight risk, and yesterday her lawyers were trying to apply again, and she said she wasn't going to change her stance on that. What are your quick thoughts on the case as it's developing? Hello, Dr. Steve Mantiao.
Well, yes, I think this Aisha Huang case has taken, unfortunately, a political twist. And in that context, there is a high likelihood that she may suffer some injustice. As we all put a very high premium on the case and expect a certain outcome. And so the trial judge then will be finding himself under some duress to deliver the expected public outcome. And for me, that is rather unfortunate. I would rather that all criminal cases related to infraction of our mining rules in this country are taken to due process without the fanfare and without the circuit, such that people get to go through a very fair process and suffer whatever consequences the law provides that they suffer. Currently, as it is, I'm at a loss as to whether or not and the guarantees that this person will get a very fair trial. I mean, if you look at the call for all the evidences and whatever that the Attorney General intends to tender for this prosecution, then of course we're making it more like a treason trial and not really like just a day-to-day violations or infractions of our law.
Right. I appreciate your thoughts here. Dr. Steve Mantiao is a policy analyst. Let me wrap up with you, Dr. Kwapong. Very interesting perspective that Dr. Steve Mantiao brings on board. Throughout this conversation, you appear to share his sentiments. Do you share this one as well?
Well, let's give the court the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I can see why he would have those concerns that, look, this has become a very high-profile case. If you look at the public commentary that greeted the news that she was back in the country and engaged in the very illegal activity for which she was either deported or was supposed to have left the country, etc., etc. I can see why Dr. Mantia would say, look, the trial judge may even be under pressure to make sure that nothing is done that would incur the displeasure of the public. Because I think this is one case that the public's interest in it is very high. And I think the public is expecting a particular outcome. And any other outcome besides that which the public is expecting will generate some serious political backlash. And again, so I can see where Dr. Mantiao is coming from. I want to give the court the benefit of the doubt to say that if you look at all of the circumstances surrounding this person, between the prior arrest and whether she fled, whether she was deported, how she got back into the country, etc., etc., I can see why there's that hesitation to move ahead with granting a bail application, unless some serious sureties are guaranteed.
Right. Thank you so much for your time this morning as well. Dr. John Osai Kwapong is a CDD fellow. We've been discussing the latest move by the Ministry of Lands to deal with the illegal mining menace. It says that it's given a 7-day grace period for persons who own or use excavators to register them with the local assemblies that they belong to. And they're supposed to provide the chassis number where they're going to use the excavators, and a host of others. Let me just run you through them if you're not aware. So the name and particulars of the owner of the excavator, the date the excavator was brought into the country, the registration number of the excavator, the chassis number, the purposes for which the excavator was brought into the country, the area where the excavator is expected to be used, the name and particulars of the current operator and or user of the excavator, and any other particulars the MMDA may deem necessary. And that's what I've been discussing with my guest this morning. Well, coming up shortly, Invasion. It's Ghana Invasion 2022 with Senior Prophet Omoto Fufean. It sounds wild, but what is this all about? Well, I've got my guest on standby to talk more on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. Let me now welcome my guest, Apostle Cephas Kwashi, and we're going to talk about the invasion, Ghana recover. That's it. Good morning to you, sir. Great to have you here.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
I'm doing well. And we'll be talking more about this invasion 2022, but I'm more interested in why the theme is Ghana recover.
Ghana recover because everybody has something that he has lost. There's a lot of issues about life applications that in life you can lose something. You can lose a loved one, you can lose a business, you can lose a wife, you can lose a wife, you can lose your education. But that doesn't mean that all is gone. You know, life is all about rising. When you fall, you can rise again. You know, apparently one thing one has to realize is that there is one thing to fall, another thing to rise. So Ghana recover, it means that even as a nation, we need a recovery. As an individual, we need a recovery. As a family, we also need a recovery. A recover is one of the most important thing that could happen to a mankind. Because God himself, when he created the heavens and the earth, the Bible said the earth was formless and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So there was a need to recover that which was lost.
I hope you're getting inspired this morning. It's just that vibe. We need it, you know, because there are a lot of things that we aren't too excited about in the country at this point. But tell us how long this event will last and how people can be a part of it.
It's going to take off from the 3rd of November to the 7th of November. That's just about a 5-day program. And it's going to happen live at Independence Square. That is the Blaster Square. Some call it like that. So it's going to happen there live. It's
5 days?
5 days.
Wow.
We have optional programs and among others.
Okay.
And that is to say that some people would say, oh, what is Ghana invention or Ghana invention recover 2022? It's all about a man God has ordained to be a blessing to the whole nation. And that is in the person of our own senior prophet Jeremiah Omotufufu, my father, my mentor, my coach in life. He's coming to actually do that work that God has assigned him to do in our nation, Ghana.
And for those of you who don't know him, maybe we can just, while we are talking, scroll that art that played before we came into the studio so that you see the personality behind the 5-day event that Mr. Kwashi is here promoting. And I'm sure you've seen him on social media. I know him because I've seen a couple of videos where he's giving out, not personally, I know him on social media. I've seen some videos of him giving out money to readers.
Yeah, just to say this, you've said it all. Just recently, something happened in Nigeria. There was a flood victims, huge one. Flood hit some, tribes of Nigeria. Do you know what happened? I'm just coming from Nigeria, to visit, to plan for the program. He said, son, I am going there to rescue these victims. Do you know what he did? The government was unable to reach there on time. He went there with his team, the rescue team, bring out all the flood victims from the water, because some, the water has overtaken their lives. The water, some it was just up to their neck. So about 3,000 people were rescued to a place where they have a home of their own now, feeding them 3 times a day. He's a philanthropist. He's a man God has ordained to be a blessing to the whole world. And just to say he's coming to Ghana, and not to himself, but to be a blessing to you and me.
And apart from philanthropy, there was this other video involving 2 major actresses in Nigeria who had an issue, and he solved them. So I don't know him personally, but I think I also see him as a man of peace.
Yeah, he's a man of peace. He respects the government. He's a man who always respects authority, because the Bible said that all should submit to authority. He loves peace, and the Bible said that if it will come from us, let us live at peace with all men. And that is who my father, senior prophet Jeremiah Omotufufu, is all that there is about.
All right.
Yes.
So is this a paid-for event?
No, it's not a paid-for event. It's a free to air, free to ground crusade. Everybody can come. Men and women, children, anybody from all over the world. It's not something that you have to come and pay. The program is free.
So we should just walk in.
Just walk in to the Independence Square from the 3rd of November to the 7th of November. And we have optional programs.
Yeah, so are there aspects that require registration?
Yeah, like that one requires some level of regulations and order. Because it's not everybody, he'll be very tired. Maybe you want to see him one-on-one, like how I'm sitting down with you and talking. You want to have a talk with him and interact with him. That is optional. Okay. You have chosen to go that way. But the Adwoa program that has to do with deliverance, salvation, prophecy, delving into your background to tell you why you are going through this marital challenge, why you're going through this financial fall down or whatever, that one is free. Everybody can come and receive. And let me tell you something. There are two-pronged approach to this thing. Some people have a lot of issues about how to receive from men of God. As he's coming, there are two categories of people. One category of people, when you go to Matthew chapter 8, verse 8, the Bible said there was a centurion whose servant was sick. And apparently he came to Jesus and said, "Please, sir, can you heal my son?" And Jesus said, "Let me go to your house." And the centurion said, "You don't need to go to my house. Just send a word." And as soon as the Lord spoke the word, the servant was healed. And another person was a woman that was having the issue of the blood. And she said, "If only I can touch the hem of his garment, I shall be made whole." She was also made whole after touching the hem of his garment. So you know what? There are two categories of people. There are some who have a faith. Once I step into the arena, I just hear his voice, I am okay. There are another category of people who said, "I want to see him one-on-one.
I want to touch him.
I want to touch him."
Okay.
They are all allowed. It's just about level of your faith. It's all allowed. However you have couched your faith, that matter. It doesn't really matter. Just come. Whichever way you want it, God is there to meet you at the point of your needs.
It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
Once you're an apostle, let me just throw this in. So there are those who say that, you say Ghana recover, you've been through a lot. They say, "Why are you spiritualizing everything? These are physical hard. I mean, 1 + 1 is 2. If the person is struggling in their business, maybe they're not following the right procedures, and so they're not getting the right returns.
No, I will not even let you to lie. You see, life is spiritual.
Okay.
Life is spiritual because you are spirit, you have a soul, and then you live in the body. That is how there is about. The source of you is spiritual. When you and your husband, you meet, there is a seed release called spermatozoa. It's in biology. And the prototype of that type is spiritual. You don't see. You just have a feeling and becomes a human being. You are a spirit, you have a soul, and then you live in the body. So is your business. So is your business. Everything you see here, all these electronics, they have a source. And the source is from the Spirit. And the Bible says, Christ prayed and said, "My Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth, as it is in heaven." So whatever we are seeing here.
So is every problem spiritual?
Not every problem is spiritual.
Okay.
Some problems are not spiritual, but majority are spiritual because problems emanate from the Spirit. God is a man of peace, is a man of perfection. Anything you're going through may have an iota of a spiritual connotation. But I cannot say all is spiritual, but majority of them is spiritual.
Okay. I just had to put Apostle Kojo on the spot. Because we are talking about people recovering and we need to understand how some of these things work. So just a quick reminder, this is happening at the Independence Square or Black Star Square, whichever you prefer to use. And it's from the 3rd to the 7th of November. Is it a morning and evening event or is it
we are
just
going to have,
event?
you can see there now, we have
4 p.m. each night.
4 p.m. each night. That is it. Recover is very essential, my dear. A young man played a football, away home has a scratch. His whole bones came out on the verge of dying. My father came to Ho here. That was last 2 years ago. Not knowing it was spiritual, it was an attack, an attempt to just amputate the leg of the boy. But after he encountered him, the boy recovered. Some have issue with their marriage. You don't know it's a source. That is the foundation. There are altars that fight us, our homes, our children, and whatever. You need to recover. Some in their business, they don't reach up to a particular level. You go to a particular level, you calm down. There is something wrong with your foundation. You have to recover. Some in their health, they go to hospital, they go to left and right, they've gone to herbalists and all over, but the problem still remains the same. You need to recover. Recovery is essential because the Bible says that it shall come to pass that I shall break off his yoke off your neck. And that time is now.
What a great way to wrap. I wish we could go on, because as Apostle is talking, I have. So it's almost saying that, just like the woman with the issue of blood, if you try every physical thing and it doesn't work, then your problem is like
you are preaching. You are preaching. Apparently, this woman have done everything. Okay. She went to the herbalist. The Bible says she tried all and failed, but she heard the name of Jesus passing. She took a decision and said, if I could touch the hem of his garment. I don't know why you are waiting. Viewer out there, I don't know what you are waiting. You have tried all. Why don't you try the God of my father, Master Jesus? He has the key.
It's an interesting morning here on the AM show, and I've been speaking to Apostle Safo, promoting that event from the 3rd to the 7th of November right here in Accra with senior prophets Jeremiah Omoto Fufeng. I hope I got it right.
You've got it right. You've got it right.
And the theme is Discover to Recover All. And don't forget, there are some numbers to call if you have any inquiries, because you're told that this is a free to attend event. But there are aspects of it that may require some form of registration. So just call 054-089-8202 or 059-892-4929, and all your enquiries will be addressed. Thank you once again, Apostle Safo.
Thank you, madam.
I'm sure some of you are inspired, because we are in really troubling times and people need a message of hope.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want to give them a message of hope to wrap up?
A message that I want to say, I just want to pray with all our viewers. Wherever you are, I just want to say that your tomorrow begins today. And whatever you haven't achieved yet, as you trust in God and do the right thing, it will surely manifest. I pray that let all your expectations turn into manifestation in Jesus'
Let me be the first to receive that. Amen.
Amen.
All right. And on that note, we take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll bring you more on the show and as well get interactive with you. Do stay. Brace is back on the show. that's a good way. Yeah, we caught you by surprise. He thought it was going to come to me first. Welcome back, Brace. Good morning to you. And how are you? Were you receiving the prayers?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Charlie, because now every prayer that comes to you, you have to grab them.
Yeah. And I'm told that the president will be meeting a couple of groups ahead of a crunch cabinet meeting later this week, and we're going to be interacting with one of the groups. Yeah.
We understand that he is meeting the Association of Ghana Industries. He is meeting with the Bankers Association and GPRTU. So he will be meeting with the Association of Ghana Industries at 2:30. Ghana Association of Banks 3:30. The Council of State 4:30, and then GPRTU and transport operators at 6:30. So I want to speak to the transport operators to understand what their proposals are, because the president will be speaking this weekend. So I'm sure all of this will feed into
culminated with that, yeah.
So Samuel Amoa is the PRO for GPRTU. We want to understand what they are sending to that particular table. Sami, thanks for joining us. What is that proposal of yours that you are taking to the table today?
Yes, we met the minister yesterday. Actually, our first meeting was on last Wednesday. We didn't come to a conclusion. The meeting was postponed to yesterday, 5 p.m., of which we did. But actually, the percentage we were proposing was 40%. That was what we sent to the ministry for negotiation. Then yesterday the meeting was ongoing, but then we didn't also come to a conclusion. But we had an information from the minister that the president would like to lead the leadership of the transport operators today by 6:30 p.m. before we can take a final decision. We'll come to a final percentage that we all agreed on. So based on that, we decided to, go and see the president, because since the president is calling us, we cannot say we will not go, because actually he is the whole president. So we decided that today we'll go and meet him and listen to what he has for us. Then we'll also tell him what he also wanted to do.
Okay.
So that was how we concluded yesterday.
So yours is about you're taking your 40% proposal to him to speak to him on that and to know what the conclusions will be.
Yes, that is
Okay.
exactly what we are going to do today. Because actually, when we met the minister, he also mentioned something. He explained some certain things to us for us to calm down a little bit. But we also, explain our side also to him, for him to also know where we also stand, by how our business is going and all that. And even, hopefully, we had an information that the next fighting window, the fuel is going to go up again. So these are some of the things we're considering. But then we'll wait for the president to meet us today, then we know where and how we end.
As we speak, have you increased your fares? Because we understand that in secondary credits, the taxi drivers have increased their fares. So I don't know if GPRTU have done that.
No, GPRTU has not increased its fares. We had an information that the BIP has increased their fares, but GPRTU has not increased its transport fares, as well as the other transport unions. Because yesterday we met with the leadership of GRTCC and the cargo truck, the leadership of the cargo truck association, as well as GPRTU. So all of us agree that today it will be after we meet the president before everything will come out. So I don't know if some people have taken it upon themselves and increase lorry fares. I think that is not right. That is not what.
Right, Samuel, this is Bernice here. You say that is not right, but there are those who argue that groups like yours have no business engaging government when you have to increase your fares. You are private entities, right? Ghana Private Road Transport Union. The president, the government, let me put it that way, doesn't have any investment per se in your businesses. Why has it become a ritual of sort that before you increase your fares, you engage the presidency? And in this particular discussion you're going to have with the presidency, is there a point on the top of your mind where you're willing to negotiate to?
Yes, as you are saying, yes, GPRG is a private entity. Yes, the government don't have any hand in our businesses. It's not the government who buy our vehicles, nor fuel our vehicles. But this thing is in there, I think, when the government subsidized the petroleum products. That was when, whenever there's going to be an increment, the negotiations will go on. We'll have a representative there. Even by then, even when the fuel prices, there has to be adjustment of fuel prices and all increments. We had our members or our representatives there. So these things were ongoing until this deregulation something started. So it's something that the leadership of GPRTU is thinking about it and trying to change that trend, because actually, as you are saying, it's not helping our businesses, because the other business, talking about the spare parts association, the market men and all that, when they are increasing their staff, they don't inform the government. They don't involve the government. But it's only the transporters that do that. And the explanation they gave to us was that the transport sector had a serious effect on the economy, and that whenever transport fares is being increased, it's affecting everything. That is why most of the time they want to keep an eye on our business and our instruments and all that. But we are trying to come out. Indoor, we are organizing ourselves to make sure that these things, will not be happening again, because it's not helping us.
And definitely we'll get in touch with you after that meeting with the president. Samuel Amwa is PRO of the GPRTU, and they are part of some groups that are scheduled to meet the president today ahead of a crunch cabinet meeting later this week. So, Brace.
Yeah, we now open the phone lines for our viewers to also get interactive with us.
You know why I smiled when I said Brace?
No.
Because, you know, when you are in the plane and they tell you, when you hear that word, it means you're going for impact. So put yourself together. And I feel like that is a message for all of us in the country. You know, we need to brace.
Brace yourself.
We need to brace. So the government says it is working to fix the problem. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, Mr. Oppong Nkrumah says we'll stabilize foreign exchange market. So, I mean, and like I've always said, I think that I'll find it extremely disingenuous for anybody to be excited about what's happening in the country, because we all have to bear the brunt. But if someone must be called out, it will happen, or it should happen. Just that it shouldn't be that we're excited that things are going the way they are. But definitely we need leadership to do something. And like you're saying, there are many who said we need the president to speak. You know, last week when Guta embarked on that strike, there was a gentleman I met who says he's been selling electrical products for the past 20 years. And he was upset about the president's posture. There were a couple of others who said, we understand there may be genuine issues that the government is trying to deal with, but we don't like the posture
of the president
president and the government. So they were hoping, for example, that during the COVID era, when the president came to address the nation
with their fellow Ghanaians,
exactly, they would see something similar. At least not as often, but at least come and tell us something, you know, that you are aware of what is going on, and they felt that that will sort of boost their confidence, and even that of investors and other people who supply goods. Don't forget that Guta said he was also doing this because he wanted to send a signal to its suppliers across the world. And look, there's a genuine problem you're dealing with. It's not that people don't want to pay back the money. So
I think the conversation we had this morning, it also brought out this fact that the president could have taken advantage of what he did during COVID times to be updating the nation regularly. And that could even calm tempers down a bit. But if you leave us to be wondering and people, you know, saying all manner of things, it doesn't really help in managing the economy. If you want to build confidence, you have to let the people know what's happening. And so let's see how the president will take it. I hope that Sunday's engagement wouldn't be the first and last, that he would take a cue from it and from the COVID era. Because you know the COVID, because of that, it held the country together. That we knew that the president would come out and speak to us, and people listened. So I think that should be the way forward. The president should speak to us.
Well, for those of you who have also been encountering some problems with your WhatsApp this morning, WhatsApp is back, so you can go about your daily business. I know it's a big deal for a lot of people because they run their businesses using the platform. So we have a caller, Abendao from Kumasi. Hello, Abendao. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
We are doing well. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. I want to comment or share my views on the Galamsey issues.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if the chiefs and the people are empowered to carry out or prevent people from the operation of the Galamsey, I'm sure we can succeed, because it will be very difficult that a Galamsey can be taking place in a community without the knowledge of the chiefs, the local chiefs there. So if the chiefs are empowered to come out with the information or talk to their people or prevent them from carrying out with the Galamsey issue, I'm sure we can succeed. And send the people to listen to their chiefs and they respect them, I'm sure through that we can succeed in the fight against Galamsey. So I think that the government should empower the chiefs and back them so that they can report any Galamsey issues in their community so that we can succeed.
Right, Abendao from Kumasi there sharing his thoughts on how we can end the menace of illegal mining. We'll be waiting for more of your calls. It's interesting, the perspective of chiefs. You know, I remember in my political science class in university, you know, we were discussing the peculiar situation in Ghana, where we have the traditional system running concurrently with the local government structure. So in this case, you're asking yourself, should it be the chiefs or should it be the MMDCEs or MMDAs? Where does one's power end?
And where does...
You know, it's quite a unique situation, but it can play to our advantage. There are those who say that there's no point keeping them running concurrently, but there are those who disagree. So whatever your thoughts are, I personally believe that these are things that we can work out to our advantage.
That I agree with him on the part of the chiefs, because I know communities where galamsey activities, you know, last time I checked, they said they had stopped. But when it was ongoing, the chiefs were aware of it.
Yeah.
And they even go to them to say that, okay, once you are destroying our river, give us
royalties.
You know, pipe-borne water, so that they constructed some pipes for them.
Could it also be, and this is no disrespect. I know that there are many. I think majority of our chiefs are well educated, but there are a few of them in some parts of the country who may not have in-depth knowledge about some of these things to a certain extent, because they're destroying the water body.
When your water is being destroyed, whether you've been educated.
No, because they're asking for pipe-borne water. Okay. I'm just wondering if the assumption is that when you destroy this one, pipe-borne water would rescue us. But when you understand the way science works and where the water is even coming from and the chemicals seeping into the water, you understand that it's not possible. But well, we have another caller, Gregory from Takrady. Hello, Greg. Let's hear you.
Yeah, hello, Bennett.
Hi.
Hello, Bennett.
Hi, Greg. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very well. Let me greet you again, and then Kojo Brace. He's doing a great job. He's doing his Skype. Kojo. Whenever I see him, I become so excited and tell him that I appreciate whatever he's doing there.
He can hear you. He can hear you.
Yes, those of us in Takrady, I appreciate what he's doing in there. Bennett, a quick one on the economic crisis. I think it is worrying, and the president. I don't know, but they have flagged for too long. Okay, I think that they have slept on the job. They have easily slept on the job, and when you come to Takrady, it is unbearable. Some of us are, feeling the brunt very. It is hitting very hard here. Now I stay at Anaji, but because of school, I have moved from Anaji to somewhere called Aponga. And Kojo knows where I'm talking about. From Aponga to the school that I teach here, we call the school Mpor Secondary School. They were taking, is it 4 cedi or 5 cedi? Currently, they are charging 10 cedi.
For transportation?
Exactly. And so the movement from Anaji to Aponga, all of a sudden, it didn't make sense for me. And so, it is just biting hard. And I feel it. Again, I'm a professional teacher, and we are not receiving that much. Okay, and so all our money is going into transport. We don't buy food. We are unable to buy enough medication. And so we want the president to address these issues. They are growing concerns here. And so the economic issues, Bennett, that's what I can see. I'm just feeling the pinch. And people know where I talk from. And people know that we lean towards the party in power, but we are feeling the brand. And we want the president to do something about it. We know he's capable of doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Greg. Really passionate and really eloquent, Greg, sharing his
so for him,
with us.
Aside the high transportation fares, he has to drive through a very bad road. It is under construction, but really the progress of work there is slow. So he drives through that bad road, pays high, and goes to teach people. So he has a double agony to go through there.
Well, another caller from Kaswa. Nanayao, let's hear you.
Okay. Dear mate, should I speak English or Chi?
Nanayao.
Be comfortable.
Opesa okatria koso.
Me pesa me country.
Me pacho feel free.
No dia koso no. Mon company for no M1 dollars na ekon. Dollars na yeah. Dollars na cost from Mr. Remo. If you add the dollars next year, you move here, Omunina and Family Bank of Ghana, na Bank of Ghana, and Fasticano, and to form na or Manisicana and call a show. Sappen mechanism. Dollars no, Mudia Sissino, and funny in PP.
Nanaya Oyedasa, so that's Nanaya calling us from Kaswa. Basically, all he's saying is that if some people have hoarded any dollars, they should just release it to the Bank of Ghana so that we can help deal with the cedi's free fall against the dollar. And like I mentioned earlier, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, you have a photo of Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah saying that the foreign exchange market will be stabilized. I'm told today that the Bank of Ghana rate cedi to dollar is about 12 cedis, 40 pesos thereabout. We had some 15 cedis scare yesterday, but we've seen the downward trend. Hopefully it continues. But our last caller, possibly from the Volta region. Hello, Emmanuel, let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning, Benny.
Good morning.
And the man over there.
He's called Samuel Kojo Brace.
Yeah, Samuel Kojo. Yeah, actually, I don't know how this government is doing. In fact, to be frank with you, I don't know what he's doing. Do you think that he's doing something? Benny, is he doing something?
Emmanuel, you get to have your say, so let me know what you think.
Have a good day.
You too have a good day. Clearly, Emmanuel is upset.
Yeah. But some questions must be a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Because really he's having his say.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he should tell us what he thinks. But
yeah.
But I think we can pick one more caller.
Yeah, if we have one more caller, all right, from... Okay. So, yeah. Hello? Hello?
Okay, so I guess we're waiting for the last caller.
All right, we have, all right, Osman is joining us. Hello, Osman, good morning.
Yeah.
Where are you joining us from, Osman?
Yeah, please, I'm calling from Tamale.
Oh, right, how's Tamale this morning?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
All right, let's hear what you have to say.
Actually, the economic...
Osman, please go ahead. Hello? Oh, too bad we lost Osman there, but he was making his submission on the economy, and I'm sure that's what resonates with a lot of you out there. Government is meeting a couple of groups. We're told AGI, the Association of Bankers, meeting with the Council of State and the GPRTU, and it's all on the economic current economic situation in the country. We expect the president to speak to us or address us. There will be an engagement, we're told, on Sunday. Yeah. And so we would expect to hear something and have some pragmatic measures on what exactly is being done to deal with our current situation. But that's how we'll end today's edition of the AM show. Yeah. Brace?
Yeah, that's it. We are grateful to the viewers, those who join us, wherever they join us from. We are grateful to you that you could find time to make us part of your morning. Let's make a date again tomorrow. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, up next is News Desk. Do stay.